Where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Today's Thursday, right? Yeah, I'm like, what the hell day is it of the week? So I am very happy to be here. I have not been able to be on the last couple of days. My husband ended up having to go to town for work. So I have been playing single mom with 3 kids. And man, does it make you appreciate your husband a little bit more. So I'm like, this is so exhausting. So I was unable to do it, mostly because I just knew that the interruptions were going to be like every 5 minutes of needing something somewhere. And they're already, they already need their mom all the time anyway. So I didn't want to put that on you guys, and I didn't want to feel torn back and forth on, what to do or leaving you guys hanging if I had to go take care of something. So it's good to see you guys. Welcome back. Welcome to Criminality. Welcome back to Criminality. Welcome to Criminality if this is your first time here. I appreciate you guys being here. Just to preface, you guys all know, most of you have been here before. You all know the rules. I don't care about your opinion on the case, but please don't share your opinions on each other, and don't share your not nice commentary about anybody else in chat, or just in general. Just be kind to each other, respect each other's opinions, be open-minded, listen. That's really my only rule. I don't care about people's opinions on cases. When it comes to Karen Reed, if you think she did it, by all means, you have the right to your own opinions and your own thoughts, and you are individual human beings. We're here to discuss it. I will be reviewing the testimony from days 15 and 16, which was Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Of course, I will give my commentary on what I think, and anybody, if it is your first time here, you will know I have not made a decision on what I think yet. Now, that can change. I'm really waiting mostly for, I want the reconstruction. That's what I want. And I want the tech people. So somebody has to explain to me that makes sense how John O'Keefe ended up where he did with the injuries that he had. That makes sense to me. I am still kind of I don't know if either theory is accurate, so I'm still waiting. Now, in saying that, does not mean that I believe everything that every witness says. So my commentary may sound one way or the other, but I am undecided on what I actually believe happened. What I'm not undecided on is there are some shenanigans going on somehow, some way. I just don't know why. So that's my disclaimer for anybody who has not been here before, and anybody who has, you guys already pretty much know that. I end up stuck in these cases mostly because I cannot wrap my mind around the circumstances. So I'm looking for answers, I think, which is what most people who follow true crime are looking for. Like I said, I don't care if you're absolutely pro free Karen Reed. I don't care if you're absolutely Karen Reed did this. All I care about is kindness and respect to each other and to me. And that's it. So let me say hi to everybody, and we will get started because we have a lot to go through, and I'm trying to keep it to just a couple of hours because these dang Karen Reed lives end up they just go forever. They just are like nonstop because I can just talk about it forever and ever and ever. So let me say hi to you guys, and we'll get started on day 15 and 16. What's up, C-Dub? At least one pretrial hearing has pretty explosive info from the defense. Can't wait until they get to present their case. Yeah, so I was watching that pretrial hearing again today, even though I'd watched it when it was live. And I was like, let me just make sure I have the exact wording right. And there was a couple people who were talking about this federal proffer of Brian Higgins, and other people were like, that's bullshit. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have a proffer. So I was like, let me go find and I thought it was Jackson. So of course I spend most of my time looking through and trying to find Jackson saying it. And it ends up being Yannetti. So that's the way the world works. My brain doesn't always remember exactly which one it is. So I clipped it today to make sure that it doesn't get lost again, because I'll lose it and I'll never find it. So I did put that out. So there's like a 9.5, 10-minute clip on just Yannetti talking about Brian Higgins in preparation for tomorrow. That's on the channel. If you guys haven't watched it, please check it out. It just goes over what the potential of cross-examination on Brian Higgins is going to look like. Also, I put out just the short about the proffer for it. So if you're just looking for verification on what Yannetti says about the proffer, that's there too. How do you like them apples? That's old school. How do you like them apples? The car computer info evidence will be interesting. Right. Like that, everything around the car and everything around the data is kind of, I think, what I need. I don't think that anybody, no matter what side you're on, thinks that the investigation, or I should say the crime scene investigation, was up to snuff. Like, I mean, it just wasn't. We don't go around collecting blood evidence in red Solo cups. Now, I do think that they have, some issues just in the Canton Police Department training on how to process a crime scene, yet I know that they don't deal with unattended death. They still have to process crime scenes for other crimes, and that's concerning to me. So that's why I said, whether I'm decided or not on Karen Read does not negate that I will have opinions on each person who took the stand and on each person involved in the case. What's up, Scott? Hi, Marshall. How you like them, Alberts? Gina, that's funny. That was a great recap. Thank you for putting it up today. I thought I needed it. So I was like, well, if I need it, then you guys probably would like it too, because going into tomorrow, I think it's going to be another spicy day. It's going to be another spicy. What's up, Post-Punk Mama? Hi, Twitter lover. Yeah, grocery bags, red Solo cups. It's like, hey, whatever you got in the car, just grab it and bring it out. Can you explain exactly what a proffer entails? So this is, essentially what it is, and this is layman's terms, not attorney terms. As everybody knows, I am not an attorney. I just have a criminal justice degree. I don't have a law degree, never passed a bar, anything like that. So in layman's terms, to me, what it is I offer up information to law enforcement. And in doing so, I am securing some type of resolution to whatever they may say they have on me. Like if I try to think of the best example. So I won't use that one. I don't know if everybody followed the Letitia Stout case, but Harley, Letitia Stout's daughter, got a proffer. So what it was that she essentially went in and said, hey, here's everything I know. They were talking about charging her as an accessory in Gannon's death, or an accessory after the fact, and helping her mom to dispose of him. And so she's like, here's everything I know. And essentially I'll testify for you, or I'll testify, and I'll tell everything I know, and I'll do it under the penalty of perjury. And if it's, comes out to be accurate and helpful and whatnot, then you're not going to charge me with any of these other things. So it's kind of like a deal, but not a deal, if that makes sense. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And I didn't even highlight the comment so Susan even knew who I was talking to. Susan, that was Tio. That's a very honest assessment. I agree, but I'm very bothered by the police. Yeah, I think I touched on that. Sorry. I kind of go up in chat, and I shouldn't do that. The Celebrite expert will be good to listen to, since that other case may involve the same thing. This is, anybody who follows Delphi, this Celebrite stuff reminds me of the geofencing stuff from Delphi. How does a prosecutor say, hey, this Celebrite extraction report is inaccurate, and you guys shouldn't be allowed to use it to defend your client. And it's the same like with Delphi with the geofencing. But then if you look at all the cases that these prosecutors have done, that they've actually locked people up based on Celebrite information or geofencing in the Delphi case, how does that work? Like, how do they pick and choose it? Which is why I'm very curious to listen to these experts on the reporting. From my understanding, we haven't got there yet, but from my understanding, the state took this Celebrite report, and then the defense, when they extracted the information, used a more updated version, so it pulled more information. Now, I don't know. That's why I'm like, that's one of the people that those are the testimonies that I'm waiting to hear. That doesn't mean these other ones aren't extremely interesting to listen to. It's so cute. It's so cute when you think these are going to be shorter. Well, I still have to cook dinner tonight at some point, and I had to start late, so I got to like reel myself in. All right, let me get back. I'm gonna hi to everybody who came in. I'm sorry if I did not get to personally say hi to you guys up at the top. If you say hi again, I'll try to do it down here. What's up, True Crime with Erica? Hi, I'm here. Been waiting for your roundup. I know my life has just been chaos. It's been chaos. Hey, Travis. Good to see you. That is what I know, and you cannot use that to evaluate what kind of deal, but if no deal, can't use it. Okay, perfect. So Travis, if you guys aren't familiar with Travis, he's an attorney in Texas, so we use him a lot. I don't mean use him. We love Travis, but we ask him a lot of questions. Kayla Montgomery, too. Yeah. Ooh. Hi, Granny's watching. Good to see you. Yeah, Kayla Montgomery and her nasty ass. That was such a frustrating trial, simply because I didn't want Adam to go free, but I could not stand her lying ass on the stand, and she should have been locked up. So it was like this huge conundrum of like, how do you fight to prove she's committing perjury when that would get that guy off, and then but lock her? Like, I was like, I was all torn up. Oh, I can't stand either one of those people. What's up, Pointer Lover? Hi, Bonnie. All right, let me see. Let's go down here. What's up, Scott? Catastrophe. Katie. Yep, Katie. She got it 3 times. Times 3. Did she get it for... I know she got it for Adelson. Did she get it for the other guys, too? I don't remember. Isn't that important? They were working with the info they had at the time. I don't think that it's the info that they had that's the problem. I think it's their processing skills, which is a huge training issue, if that's what they all think is okay. You can use it. Okay, hold on. Let me go back up, Travis. Let me see what you said before that. This is what I know, and you can use that to evaluate what kind of deal, but if no deal, can't use it. Right. Okay. Makes sense. And that's back to the proffer conversation. Mama K, always. Yeah, she got paroled. Yeah, he's getting locked up for the rest of his life, and she's going to be walking free. I hope they don't ever let her kids around her. Hey, what's up, Inspector Gadget? Snappy Dragon. I actually felt sorry for poor Harley. I don't think she knew it all. I think that she was manipulated and lied to by her mother her whole life. And I was going into it with and we're kind of talking all over the place, and I apologize for that, but with Harley from the Letitia Stout case, Gannon Stout, Harley, like, I was like, I'm going to wait until she testifies before I really make a decision, because I went back and forth on what I thought about her. I really did. But once she testified, I was like, she's a naive young girl who's been controlled by her mom her whole life. And she may have known something was wrong, but wasn't sure and couldn't prove anything. What's up, Laura? It snows a lot in Massachusetts, so you would think they could be prepared for crimes in snow. Right. You'd think so. What's up, Tomboy? Oh, man, I haven't even had dinner yet. It's Spaghetti Thursday. Same here, Kel. That's what I'm cooking. Spaghetti. What's up, Jax? My favorite review of testimony. Testimony. I love it. Well, I take forever, though. Okay, so speaking of taking forever, 1960 post-punk mom. I cried for Harley. That case was awful. Yeah, that was bad. I have a visceral hatred for that woman. I really do. For Letitia Stout. It was like it, and I always say this, but I'm like, it became like an unhealthy hatred of a person you don't know. But she just put me over the edge. Okay, so I have a bit of a plan, and I'm going to skip ahead just for a hot minute, because I do think that I want to make sure that we touch on these other witnesses before we get to, and it, like I said, it's out of order, but I want to spend most of the time talking about Jen McCabe, obviously. But I want to touch on these other witnesses. So, and there's so many pages. There's so many pages of Jen McCabe. So bad. But I want to touch on these other witnesses quickly. I don't think that they're as imperative to spend as much time on, but I don't want to ignore them or miss them because they are part of it. So yesterday, after Jen McCabe was off the stand, Carrie Roberts took the stand, and I actually anticipated. I was like, man, listening to Jen McCabe and Alan Jackson was almost like exhausting because there was so much tension and just pushback and just, oh, it was so spicy. It was just so spicy. I was like, oh man, Carrie's going to get on here. And then, so during direct, and if anybody doesn't know this, during direct, if you hear an attorney object from the defense, you can pick up on that. That is the attorney that's going to be doing the cross-examination. So I was like, oh man, Carrie's taking the stand, and this is going to be probably another spicy one from, especially everything that Jen McCabe said about her. And I was like, ew, this is probably not going to go over well. And we know that she doesn't like Karen at all. So she gets on the stand, and she was actually very pleasant to listen to. She had a couple dagger stares over to Karen Reed's table. She was not overly happy with them. And Karen Reed specifically. But for the most part, I thought she was a good witness. She didn't do anything really for either side except for just come forward and say, this is what I saw. This is what happened. This is where it happened. And this is kind of how everything went down. But like I said, I don't think that she was a great witness for the prosecution. And then we hear the objections coming from Elizabeth Little. And if you guys aren't familiar with her, she's done a couple of the cross-examinations and a couple of the what I would consider lighter witnesses. They're not the heavy bag witnesses or the heavyweight witnesses. The heavy bag. Now I'm thinking of fucking Colin, like with his punch in the heavy bag. And so we hear her objecting, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be like they expect this to be more of one of the soft witnesses because she doesn't have, or she might have it, but we haven't seen it. I should say that more gung ho, pushback. And so I hear her objecting. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. And then, so Carrie testifies. She goes through, tells them everything that happens. And then Elizabeth Little stands up and she says, we have no questions. And I was like, wow. We have no questions for Carrie Roberts. Her testimony after Jen McCabe's was not, I don't want to say worth, but it was not worth them going up to question her because she didn't offer anything really to contradict. And she was a very pleasant witness. So going up and asking her like hard hitting questions about meeting up with Jen McCabe and having this like weird timeline thing that they did and all that would have caused the defense to look like assholes, like, and not to skip around all over, but we know just based on social media's reaction to Alan Jackson and Jen McCabe, some are like, Alan Jackson was an asshole and I can't believe he talked to her like that. And then other people are like, Jen McCabe's a bitch and she's going to jail. So there's two very extreme sides when it comes to testimony like a Jen McCabe. But with Carrie Roberts, there just really isn't. I think she came off pretty pleasant. So I'm going to do, you guys, I like to do the polls when it comes to the Karen Reed stuff. So we're going to put a poll up about Carrie Roberts. Should we do this, the typical, was she a believable witness, or do you guys want to do, was she, what should we ask? What do you think we should poll for Carrie Roberts? I think they're focusing on in the main players. So next they might question is Higgins, in my opinion. Oh yeah, I think so too. So behind on this trial and Delphi, it's graduation week. So priorities. Oh yeah, do what you got to do. You can always come back for the recaps. Luckily, the biggest thing that's happened in Delphi is that the attorneys put in their motion to have the judge removed, and then all the hearings got canceled because she has to rule on that. You want to do was she credible? Okay, let's do that one. Was she manipulated by Jen? I think she's easily led because she already didn't like Karen. Okay, we'll do the. Do we think she was a believable witness? We'll do that one. We'll stick with the same one we typically do for the witnesses. And speaking of Delphi, just an FYI for people who aren't in the criminality group or the criminality community chats, I did receive the transcripts that we had ordered. I have those, so we've got to plan the lives to go read through the transcripts. I ordered, it's a short one from, hi Francis. I ordered the one from May 7th, which was only like a 55-minute hearing. And I decided to order the transcript from last year's June hearing because nobody ever got it. And then it seems that there's some points that people are going back and forth on whether it actually happened or not. So I was like, well, easy peasy, we'll figure it out. We'll just get the transcript. So that one also came. So even though it's old, it'll give us some insight into some of the things that are happening now. Okay, so poll is up. I put Robert, and it's Roberts, darn it, typo. Was she a believable witness, yes or no? I think that she was very credible. That's my opinion of it. I can't vote, so. I think she was believable, but I also wondered on some things because she spent so much time with Jen and her house in the next week. Right. Uh-huh. Yeah, catastrophe. Yeah. What's up, Mandy? Hi, LFT. Yeah, I think we need the June one just because everybody's going back and forth on it. So we'll schedule that. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna have to see how. Hi, holy shnikes. We'll have to see how Brian Higgins does tomorrow because, oh man, I don't know how that's gonna go. But like I said, I don't want to go all over the place. What's up, Carrie? Late for me, but I'm listening. Yeah, the June hearing might be interesting. Like I said, especially in retrospect, because I went back trying to find like people's lives when they went, the people who'd gone to the June hearing, and I was back like trying to listen to their lives, and like we talk about with all of them, everybody's got their own perspective and what they pick up on and what they don't. Okay, so while you guys are voting, I'm just going to read through super fast just for anybody. We do have a lot of people who do come and don't actually watch the trial, so they're looking for simply the recap of what the testimony was. So I'm just going to read through the notes. Like I said, she was very believable to me when she teared up and was like internally crying. Like I could feel that. Like it wasn't like, oh my gosh, that's so fake. I can't believe she's fake crying. Like it was, you could feel the truth, if that makes sense. You know? Regina George factor. That's a great perspective. I think that's kind of what Jen McCabe reminds me of. She seemed to be her and the one from Aruba, Laura. I think that I felt like they were friends. I felt like they cared and that they felt the loss. So it's tough to try to compare because, like I said, we haven't actually talked about Jen's yet. But okay, let me read through this. Hey, Ariel. Okay, so she's lived in Canton her whole life. On the 28th, this is funny though, because on the 28th, she went bowling with her daughter, and her husband was on his way out when she came in. And we know her husband actually testified already right at the beginning of trial that he is Kurt Roberts, the one that went and met John and Michael Camerano at CF McCarthy's for a few drinks. He's the one that they called, and he was like, nah, I don't want to come out. And they're like, don't be a pussy, get out. Like, come on, come have a few drinks with us. And then he's the one who said like he like Irish goodbye'd them at the bar. So he like just bounced. But so she talked about going bowling, and I was watching this, I think this live, I think it was on Jay's, because I typically watch the trial on Jay and Bob's, or Bob and Jay and Not So Silent Bob's. And she I was like, Jay, but we don't know the score. Like how, like, because you know that we know the score of all the basketball games. We don't know what time they started, or we know what time they start. We know what time they finish. We know who scored what. We know who wins. And I'm like, well, what's the score of the bowling? Who won? Like, how do we walk away from this testimony not knowing what the score in the bowling was with her daughter? So she knew John and his siblings since high school. John's nephew and her son went to school together since daycare, and then she would help John after John's sister passed away. She said that John dated a lot and would have her husband meet the women to see if he liked them. I thought that was funny. Karen would take care of the kids' stuff sometimes. She typically would take care of one of the kids, and then Jen was kind of taking care of one of the other ones. Of the other one. So like they kind of just had their own thing based on, like, she took care of Patrick a lot, and Jen would take care of Kaylee a lot, mostly because of the fact that their kids were in the same sports and going to the same events. So, you know, he had a pretty big support system of moms that seemed to help him caravan or carpool, whatever you call it, where you're from, the kids around to all their events. So she said that Karen called her at 5 a.m. twice. And when she answered, Carrie, John's dad, Carrie. And then she hung up. And then when she called back, she said it was very loud and it ended up waking up her husband. She called back and she was like, I'm afraid something happened to John. He got hit by a plow. I was not supposed to stay in Canton. And I wrote this as a quote because it's important. And I'll tell you why. So she said, I'm afraid something happened to John, like he got hit by a plow. I was not supposed to stay in Canton, and he wouldn't have left Kaylee alone. So she says that she's concerned, or like, according to Carrie Roberts, Karen says, I'm afraid something happened to John. He got hit by a plow. Okay, so just keep that part in mind right there. She says, can I come to your house? Can I come over there? And she said, I don't remember anything from last night. I'm coming to your house. Will you drive my car? And I put care, of course. I drank so much, I don't remember anything. And Carrie was like, you're going to get a DUI. Like, you shouldn't be driving. Like, go back home, but go back to John's and be with Kaylee, and I'll go out and look for John. So she went to her car and waited for Karen to show up, and Karen just doesn't show up. She ended up calling non-emergency. She called the hospitals. She was looking for any type of plow accident victim, and she ended up talking to Sergeant Good. We've heard that call. Now, it's interesting because this whole plow thing, she's not asking on that call, and I can pull it up if we want to listen to it again. I think it's on Microdot's Twitter. And she's not asking like, hey, did anybody call that somebody was hit by a plow? She's asking like if they picked up somebody, like he's out drunk and walking around. Like, did you pick up John O'Keefe? He's a Boston cop. He was drunk last night. You know, that's essentially what she's saying in this non-emergency. It's not 911. It's in her non-emergency call where she's talking to Sergeant Good. She's not saying like, did you guys get a call that somebody was hit by a plow? So I thought that was curious. So she went to her car. So she called non-emergency or did that. So her and her husband are both trying to call John. John's obviously not answering. So she talks to Karen, who said that she ended up going to Jen's. And so Carrie said, okay, I'll meet you over there. Jen drove Karen's car back to John's house, and then Carrie followed behind because she was asking like Karen, like, did you check the house thoroughly? Are you sure he's just not like in there somewhere where, like, you know, he passed out somewhere like behind the couch or anything like that? So like she thought, we'll go back to the house and we'll look through the house. Now that's also interesting because he asked her like, so are you kind of like taking charge of things that are happening right now? And she was like, yeah, I am. So I was like, okay, so she's kind of like a boss babe too. Like she needs to be like in charge. That would be very interesting dynamic between her and Jen. Oh, grin for me. The prosecutor wants to call professionals to talk. This grin for me. Have you been hacked or something? Where's hashtag feed Bob? About the phone extraction originally done by his professionals because his original extraction professionals weren't professional enough for his own discovery extraction. And thank you for the super chat. I believe I appreciate that. It says, yes, caught the shade. She was getting ahead of Carrie. I loved Carrie's testimony. She was not disrespectful and didn't offer a bunch of extra stuff to make herself look good. Agreed. Navin says first thing Carrie said told her was John is dead. Then hang up. Right. Yeah, in this Carrie, John's dead. Carrie, and then she hangs up. Why did she think he got hit by anything? It's a great question. The problem with people is they can be manipulated by others' emotions, whether it be true or not. It's kind of scary, and that is a fact. Lolly did. He asked the hard-hitting questions. Definitely proved guilt. I definitely think Karen was the outsider that none of the witnesses were going to ever accept into their circle. I agree with you. When did the ambulance leave? Ariel brought up an excellent point. Let me see. We can pull up the timeline too, because I see a couple timeline questions in here. So we'll get through it. And we can pull up the timeline. Because the ambulance leaves twice. I mean, obviously, there's two different ambulances, one with John and then one with her. It was a weird deal. She showed up at Jen's house. Jen said that Carrie was following her and screaming at Karen that she was drunk and was almost hit by a plow in front of Jen's house. Right. Well, so when Carrie arrives, she's also coming alongside there's a plow with her. That's what Jen says, is that the plow was there. Can we get back to the simplicity of the Gilgo Beach killer? Why are all these fucking cases so complex? I feel like these two and Idaho have a lot of similarities in the complexity of law enforcement. There it is. Read that again and make it make sense. Read that again and make it make sense. Okay, hashtag feed Bob. Carrie would be driving behind Karen's car the whole time. She would have seen bright white tail light since it was still dark. Correct. Well, and Karen must be psychic. She knew John was dead and where he died when she called Carrie Roberts. She didn't know where. She didn't know where when she called Jen McCabe, because Matt even testified that he was basically like, what are you, a fucking idiot? Like, we saw you at... She thought she left him at the waterfall, which absolutely makes sense, because when we were originally, before the trial ever started, when we were going through Karen Reed's route, when she left John O'Keefe's house before she goes to anybody else's house, she's driving over around the waterfall. It was very weird. Okay, the prosecutor wants to call professionals to talk about the phone extraction originally done by his professionals, because his original extraction professionals weren't professional enough for his own discovery extraction. Right. So he does an extraction, so his people are going to testify. The defense does an extraction with quote unquote, better tools or more upgraded tools. And so now Lolly has to bring in more professionals to discuss not only his extraction, but how their extraction is different than his extraction. Gotcha. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm picking it up. Idaho just got wild there. I did watch it. Or I listened to it. Yeah, so I'm like, Idaho's those three cases seem to have like some crazy stuff with the law enforcement. But here's the thing: is like, and this is why I always tell people, I don't judge people by what they believe about the case, because I think Brian Koberger is the right guy. And so, does that mean that cops didn't do shady stuff? Absolutely not. But I still think he's the right guy. Now, Karen Reed, I'm completely uncertain of. Richard Allen, uncertain of. They were on the phone getting directions, but yeah, I'm pretty. I don't know if they're going to go with that he wasn't in the car and never got there. I mean, that would be kind of, I don't know why she would have gone, and then who was giving her the directions if she'd left him at Waterfall. Okay, let me see. She had met Jen once before during that Reebok visit, that they had gone to Reebok together because John had a discount there. So she showed up at Jen's. She was still on the phone with Karen, so she could hear their conversation because Karen's phone was still hooked up to her SUV. Karen said that she left John at the waterfall, and Jen said, "I saw you at Fairview." And Karen's like, "Well, what about my taillight?" And then she's like, so she looked at the taillight and saw that a piece was missing. The hole was filled with snow on the right passenger side. She was parked right behind the SUV in Jen's driveway. Now, this is interesting to me. Remember when Matt testified, and I was going to go back and I never did, of course, because I get sidetracked with 50,000 things. Matt said that he looked out the window and then told Jen he didn't want her to go with Karen because of the taillight. How does Matt see it if the cars are pulled straight into the driveway? I was kind of confused about that, and I wanted to go back and like re-listen to the exact terminology he used. And that's kind of the struggle. And as I've gone through this more and more now with taking more notes, you guys can see like my notes at the very beginning, I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to write down a couple things. And now I'm like writing so much more stuff down because it's the next person is saying something very different. And so I don't know what that other person said, if it that it was even important until the next person says something different than that person said. So now I'm like, So I was like, wait a minute, did Matt actually say, what's up, Sleuthy? I don't think that's what he was saying. I never thought he was. So when he says he looked out the window, what was your interpretation of what he was looking out the window for and saying that he didn't want her going with that? That's why I'm like, I got to go back and listen to it. I'm not saying one thing or another about what Matt said because I don't remember it verbatim. Yeah, he thought the way I interpreted him saying it was like the taillight was out. Not that the taillight was broken necessarily, that the taillight was out. Like, oh shoot, like her bulb needs to be replaced kind of thing. That's how I interpreted it. Lolly jumping all over is what caused the confusion. Probably. Hey, Miranda. This is yesterday's testimony. So there was no hearing today because Turtle Boy actually had court today. Apparently that's why. I don't know why. I mean, is it in the same courtroom? It's not the same judge. So I don't know if that really was it because he wasn't until this afternoon. Today would have been a half a day, but I don't know. That's the rumor on the social media streets. Or she could have just had something else going on. I have no clue. They just did not have anything today. So this is actually yesterday's. So she's listening to them talk. And so Jen's actually telling Karen again, like, no, we saw you at Fairview. And so she's like, well, what about my taillight? So she's like, it drew my attention to the taillight. And yeah, there was but she specifically says there was a piece missing. Not like it was obliterated. Like the whole thing was gone and was just packed with snow. She notices that there's a piece missing. Today was an entire waste of a day. You should listen to the Coburger one. That was kind of exciting. So Jen drove Karen's car to Meadows, and then she pulled her dark gray Explorer in right behind the SUV. They go through the photos of John's house, and they review the security cams in John's organization. She talks about that John was a neat freak, and they go over the layout of the house and like how you go in through the garage. And Lolly has to make sure that everybody knows that Karen does not take off her shoes. She does not take off her shoes when she goes into John's house, and John is a neat freak, and John is meticulous, and Karen apparently did not care because Jen makes sure to say the same point that Karen does not take off her shoes. I also think it's very clear that Karen is a fucking hysterical disaster. Like whether that's because she knows she did something, thinks she might have done something, or she's just legit scared because she knows that John would have come home and would have never left Kaylee there without coming home. I don't know, but she's maybe, or she's part drunk still. Who knows? She's a mess. And I don't know anybody on any side that doesn't know that she's a mess. I think the reasoning behind why she's a mess might vary. But so I think the last thing she's thinking of is she's going to take off her shoes. She's like, no, we're going to go, like, we're looking around this house because Carrie says he might be passed out somewhere. So that's what we're going to do. there was something else I wanted to point out there. Now I don't remember what it was. Oh. Did I write it later? So this is the part where, and like I said, because we're kind of going through it a little bit ass backwards, Jen had said in her testimony that when they arrive at the house, Karen had told them about this broken tail light. So they both go and Karen's like showing them the tail light. Well, we knew from Jen's testimony that when they played the video, they don't do that. They go straight inside. They walk straight inside the house, right through the garage door that Karen apparently had left open. And they don't look at it. So when Jen was testifying, we were like, okay, that's a straight up lie. Why is she saying that? And then Alan Jackson did not ask her about it on cross, which we'll talk about when we get there, but it pertains to this too. Alan Jackson doesn't ask her about it on cross. And we were like, why isn't he asking her why she's lying about that? And there's one thing that even though I'm not a lawyer, as I do know, lawyers don't typically ask questions that they don't already know the answer to, because that would be that could cause a huge kerfuffle. Like, nobody wants that. So they specifically want to know the answer before they ask the question. And that's why they're like, you don't need to tell me, tell the jury. Like, you tell the jury what happened, because I already know. Like, I already know all of this stuff. So Alan Jackson doesn't ask her, and I'm like, that must mean that he knows something about that. Like, he's not asking her on purpose. Like, there's a reason he's not bringing it up. Well, when Carrie testifies, she says that we must look at the tail light. We must look at the tail light when we're leaving the house. Now, that was a big deal to me. Why don't they show the ring video of when they're leaving the house to show them checking out the tail light? I mean, because if they're actually standing back there looking at the taillight, you don't think they're like dusting off any of the snow or looking at how bad it is or anything? But essentially, Carrie tells Karen, like, hey, no big deal. You were drinking. You probably hit something. Like, it's not, it is what it is. Nothing, no issue. Lynn, have they ever shown her coming home? No, they don't have that. So that's a big reason. So they start talking to Carrie about do you know who has access to John's ring? Like ring camera. And she's like, no, I have no idea. I know that John would look at it all the time. And, he would check to see when the kids were coming and going and whatnot. So the Commonwealth is insinuating that Karen Reed deleted it, but there was some commentary, and I don't remember if it was a motion or a pretrial hearing, that Karen Reed didn't have access to it, but we know the investigators took John O'Keefe's phone, and we're going to get there too. So is that who does it? And then I'm also going to bring up another point when it comes to that. So they go through all of that. They go through the arrival. They go through all of this stuff. They don't know who accessed the ring. Karen pointed out the taillight must have been when they were leaving. I don't know why nobody shows that footage. They keep showing the footage of them walking in. Why not show the footage of when they're leaving? Makes no sense to me. Maybe they just don't have it. Maybe Jen was just mistaken about which time it was. So she says, Jen and Karen both go upstairs. She's looking around downstairs. She goes upstairs, and then when she's done, she goes upstairs, finds Karen in John's room. She says something like kind of standing there, and I thought that was weird. Then she goes into Kaylee's room. Somebody pointed out to me, though, I think it was in somebody else's live, to look at Jen's data and see if Jen ever actually goes up any stairs during the time she's supposed to be at John O'Keefe's house. Has anybody in chat done that? They said to check Jen's steps, like her Apple Watch or her flights of stairs, that she doesn't go up any stairs when she's at John's house. So I was like, oh, I never looked at that. Yeah. She did not. You have looked at, yeah, of course you have. She never looked at it, or she never looked at it. She never went up the stairs. Hey, Sherry. All right, somebody send the Sleuthy, the goose signal. Check and see if Sleuthy checked it. There you go. There it is. Did you get my super chat? No, I didn't, because I'm looking at a completely different screen and not even paying attention. I am so sorry, Francis. Okay, Koberger, guilty. Do not, with Alan, guilty confession, damning. Karen, innocent, no solid evidence. My wife thinks guilty. I'm too hot not to love. Ah, shit, that's funny. Yeah, you think Alan is guilty. right? You think, and then you think Karen's innocent. See, that's interesting. Coburger seems hella tall. We will get back to you on Alan in October. Karen Reed is either guilty or innocent. We on that. Oh gosh, you guys are silly. I think Coburger's guilty. That's my opinion. Richard Allen could be either one. Karen could be either one. All right, let's go back over here. Too hot not to love. CW Commonwealth hasn't listed out what's missing. It was actually the defense that called it out. I don't know if that's in response to something else. I do that. I'm like, wait, like that well, it depends on the person, because I know there's people who are like they won't message me back for like ever, and then there's others that I'm like, well, wait a minute, that person would respond to me right away, and then I start to get into like the panic and anxiety mode of my 40s, because that's how I feel like it's like a 40s thing where, and late 30s apparently, where my anxiety like takes over my life. When I was in my 20s, nothing scared me. All right, hold on. So tell me check DM. Okay, so I'm 9 at 5:32. 5:32. So it doesn't tell me what she's doing though, Sleuthy. It just tells me a time that it's actually activating. Is that what an ending? So it's like 5:32 to 5:32, 5:32, 5:32 again. It's like seconds, and then not again until 6:35. And that's the watch. Those two are the watch. Am I reading that correctly? I have read receipt on for my mom as she's almost 89. When she doesn't open a message, I worry. That makes sense. All right, I think I have a tiny person here. What's up? Okay, well, you can go find a snack or have your brother or sister help you. Grin for me says I'm 37. Everything scares me. What's up, Alley Cat? What did Alley Cat say? Hold on. Karen Reed hit John in a drunken stupor, not on purpose, but now she's blaming all the people she asked for help. I cannot stand her. Once you hit 50, you don't give a crap anymore? Okay, that's what I need then. Another 5.5 years. Why didn't Jen go into the house and get blankets? I don't know. That's always been weird to me, too. Jen was also directing Karen away from 34 at every opportunity. See, I didn't take it that way. To me, it's like she was the one saying like, no, you guys were at Fairview. But then on the stand, she was like, we went there because Karen wanted to. And it's like, well, Karen didn't even remember anything about it. Then how you keep saying Karen didn't remember it and that you and Matt had to tell her, then how would she be directing you to go there? Only because she'd already gone to Waterfall? I don't know. There's so much bitchery between the women that it's almost like, how do you know which one's even going to tell the truth? Because they don't like you. They do not like each other. All right, let me see what else there was. They show her the picture of the tail light from the when they had already confiscated the vehicle, and she says, yeah, that's essentially what she saw, but it was minus the snow. The dash cam of the officer in John's driveway, they show close-up pictures of the SUV. Now, this is important because I actually think those were not in evidence, and I think part of what we saw today may have been that, because that's the dash cam. The dash cam, hold on, let me see. I thought I saved them. Where did they go? Is it this one? This one. Copy of enhanced image from Canton Police Department Cruiser 682. So it's the one video and the two photos. This is, so is it a different, it's his video. It's from his cruiser. And it's one video and two photos. So I was wondering if it's what they actually had put in yesterday during testimony when they're having her look at it, because they did that close-up one that they did not have prior. And so I think they may just have added that. That's my thought on that. Hey, Shmita. I think Jen going on about how much hate and harassment happening to her family and the accident. As a juror, I feel like I'd almost take that into thought because stuff doesn't add up to people. 682 is Officer Good. 682 is, let me see if I can find it. It's no, I think it's the guy in the driveway. It's the driveway guy. Officer 682. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it real quick through just a quick Google search. I don't think I saved the picture. But I'm almost positive he's 682. You guys are probably going to answer that. And 682 is good. Okay, hold on. You guys are all saying 682 is good. Why did I think 682 was the other guy then? What is he? Officer Good's not the one that goes to the house, right? Who's the one that went to Meadows? You guys are getting me all flustered now because I don't remember. Who's the one that went to Meadows and drove in and has the picture? Who's that one? That's not good, right? Other guy is 683. Okay, maybe that's why I'm thinking it's him. Okay, thank you. That was a memory issue. Okay, so not that. They're going to have other pictures from Officer Goods then. It's definitely not Bukkake. Definitely not Bukkake. So they show her, well, anyway, they show her the dash cam of the officer pulling into John's driveway and the close-up pics of the SUV. She says, yeah, that's essentially what it looked like minus the snow. And she said Karen and Jen wanted to go to Fairview. Now here she says is Karen and Jen. They both wanted to go to Fairview. Jen gave her directions to get there. The plows were out, but visibility was very, very poor. We've got to keep up on who sees what snow. That's important detail in the case. And she said Karen was frantic and screaming in the back seat. She was not buckled. Karen said that Bella's mom doesn't like her and that John had dated her 10 years ago. Karen said, there he is, there he is, there he is, and started kicking the door to get out. When Karen got out of the car, she looked at Jen and told her that Karen was crazy. And she just saw Karen like running over to like a mound. So Karen lifted up her shirt and laid on top of John. Okay. Now, that's an interesting comment to me. They show more dash cam of Officer Saraf pulling up behind her car. This is when Carrie starts crying, when you can see them out at the scene. She's having a hard time. And that's what I was like, okay, I do think those are real tears. So Jen was getting blankets out of Carrie's I don't know why I said out of Carrie's car. And she was digging John's head out of the snow, and he was on his back. So there goes the didn't turn him over, that they did arrive and he was on his back. She brushed the snow off of his face, and he had blood coming out of his nose and mouth. She said that his right eye was swollen, but his left eye looked okay. And she knew that he had a cut on the back of his head because she was trying to wrap blankets around him, and there was blood from the back of his head getting on the blankets. She said the body was covered in snow, maybe 3 to 4 inches. Now, that part to me is confusing, because if Karen gets out of the car and lifts up John's shirt and lifts up her own shirt and lays on top of him, then she's already probably gotten a lot of snow off of the top of him. Does that make sense? The blankets are in the back. I know I said the back of Carrie's car. Who, what said? Hold on, I think I missed what you're asking. Wait. Did Carrie say Jen said Karen was crazy? Or she said it herself? She tells Jen. She looks at Jen and so Carrie says Jen is crazy. Carrie's the one saying Jen is crazy. Gosh damn it, these women. Carrie is telling Jen that Karen is crazy. The other officer was just another one, but remember on senior cop activated and said he accidentally stopped by John's house, but then went to the station for warmth. Yeah, then to 34. Okay. Jen's testimony was Carrie told Karen she was crazy. Jen's testimony was that Carrie told her that Karen was crazy. Same testimony. Jen just uses more explicit words. When she skips your super chat because she's not trying to reveal the truth. I'm not. I'm sorry. It's hard because I'm looking at two different screens, so I miss them, and then they end up so far up in chat I don't see them. Jen McCabe looks like Mama. Changed my mind. Actually, I thought that she looked a lot like Hillary Swank. I love Jess. Thank you for accepting my super chats. Thank you for accepting them, of course. I try. So, suspect the amount of times Jen says Karen was screaming. Not once 1 ounce of sympathy was ever stated by her for Karen. So telling. Maybe because she jumped out of the car and thought she saw something, and she just and Carrie's testifying like all I saw was like a pile of snow. Like I didn't even like I thought like this bitch is crazy. You know what I mean? Like what in the hell is she talking about? She doesn't see him. And she's like kicking the door to get out of the car, freaking out and losing her shit. And it's not the only time that she's telling her to shut up. I mean, Jen's testifying that she's telling her to shut up, you know, when they're on the phone driving back to the house, like, shut up. And then in the car, she's supposedly telling her to shut up and sit back. I don't know. So I just thought that was weird. I'm like, is he covered? Is it up to like his sides in that amount? Like, I don't know. Like, you know, if we need to know all the things about the snow, I'm like, now I got to figure out where the snow is. She told Karen to get off of him so she could do CPR, which she's certified in. She told Jen to call 911 and told Karen to start doing mouth to mouth. Karen would do the mouth to mouth, then she'd get up and run around all frantic, and then she'd come back and do the mouth to mouth. And Karen was screaming, "Did I hit him? Is he dead? Like, did I hit him? Is he dead?" She remembers that there was a fire hydrant and some weird electrical box thing. She said the first responders arrived within minutes. She never saw any neighbors, never saw anybody from the house. Nobody came outside, according to her. The EMT said when they got there, we'll take it from there. So she got up and stopped doing CPR. She couldn't tell how far he was from the road because it was covered in snow, and she didn't really know where the road stopped, like where the road started and stopped, to know how far he was off the side of the road. When the EMTs moved John, she found the phone underneath him. And here's your first witness to actually say they saw grass under John. It's interesting because the photos we see, that ground is packed in snow. But Lolly said in his opening statement that there was grass under him, and we've been waiting for somebody to corroborate that. And finally, he has Carrie Roberts who says, yeah, when they picked him up and moved him, there was grass. Now, if there was grass, why didn't Lolly ask any of the first responders who actually picked him up? That's surprising to me. They would have been probably in a much better state of mind to remember, but they weren't asked. So she's the one that's now backing up his opening statement of, hey, yeah, we picked him. When they picked him up, it was grass underneath, and that's where his phone was. She said, I picked up his phone and I put it in my pocket, and then and the phone was like right in the middle to the right side of his back. So that's also kind of an interesting point. Like, I don't know, like, the trajectory of how the phone would land there. That's why, like, one of those reconstructions are going to be very interesting to watch. One of the first responders asked her for the phone, and she gave it to them. She doesn't even remember who it was. Good told Karen to calm down because she was frantic. And she said that she saw Jen and Karen get in the back of a squad car to warm up while she was watching inside the ambulance and seeing them working on John. She said at one point Karen grabbed her and was screaming, "Is he alive? Are they working on him?" And she responded, "They are working on him, and they wouldn't be working on him if he was dead." She said then Karen wanted to pray, so they all held hands and prayed. And when they were doing that, Karen saw blood on her hands and thought she'd started her period. So that's, Jen had said that too. And I'm like, is she really just like losing her fucking mind? Like she has no idea what's going on. Like if she'd started her period, why in the world is like, why would it be all over her hands? Like, is she just not wanting to accept that there's the potential of that this is John's blood? Is she just, I don't know. It's like almost like you can't figure out what the heck is going on in her brain because some things are just not making any sense. But they both say that she thought she started her period, and she said, "No, still Karen, that's not your blood. That's John's blood." Said after the ambulance left with Jen was going into the house, Karen was in her car, and that she had called John's parents, and they didn't have 4-wheel drive, so that she was going to go pick them up. So Karen was actually on the phone with Erin, which is John's sister-in-law. We heard this testimony from Erin where she's telling Erin John's dead, and that Carrie had to take the phone and tell her no, they're working on him. He's not dead. They took him to the hospital. So she talks about that John was covered in snow. She couldn't really tell what he was wearing. He had jeans and a shirt on. She thinks no jacket. Thinks that Jen was going to wake up her sister, and that's why she was going inside, but she doesn't actually know why she was going inside. She said at some point Matt came, and she did talk to Matt, and she thinks that was the first time she was there. But she wasn't really sure. She just knows that she talked to Matt. She initially had left with Karen, and Karen was saying, if anything happens to John, I'm going to kill myself. Someone needs to take care of the kids. And then Sergeant Good called her back, or Officer Good, I don't remember what he is now. I think he's a sergeant. Called her back, or called her because she had just left her number with him and said, hey, you got to bring her back. Like her parents are calling and saying that she's threatening to commit suicide and they want somebody to take care of her. So she turns around, drives back, and they take Karen away in the ambulance. She said that Karen spoke to her mom in the car, and she ended up talking to Karen's mom also. And her mom said, don't let her have her purse because she keeps pills in her purse, and she didn't want her to have access to the pills in her mental state. When she went to pick up John's parents, she said it was so bad outside, she ended up actually spinning out. So she took back roads. You know, some of this testimony is very important. That was interesting. Maybe just talk more about how bad the roads were. At the hospital, John's cousin works there, and so she asked her to take her to the restroom into the chapel so she could pray. She had blood on her hands, so she wanted to clean herself up. She ends up calling and talking to Mike Camerano's wife, which we know because she was actually at work, and they were trying to get a hold of her. They were trying to get a hold of her husband, Michael, who was at the bar with John the night before, and then Michael's the one who ends up going and picking up Kaylee from the house. So she calls her. She said Karen was calling her repeatedly from the ambulance, asking her if she was going to come to the hospital and see her. And she said she just kept calling. Like she'd call and she'd hang up, and she'd call and she'd hang up. And it was just, she said it was just like back to back. She said on one of the calls, John's parents were in her car, and Karen said she dropped John off at the party, and John's mom actually said, and you just left him there? And then John's dad was like leave her alone, like she's been through enough, just leave her alone. I thought that was kind of an interesting comment, like you just left him there. Like why that would have been an issue to leave him at somebody's house party. That's not opening statements, high BR. That's a pre-trial hearing from April. All right, let me catch up on chat. I mean, he was a grown-ass. Yeah, I thought that was just kind of weird. I'm like, you can't drop him off somewhere? Less slippery, yeah, because they haven't been driven on so much. Not as packed. No black ice underneath, typically. I think that Carrie, and plus if you spin out, you're not going at such a high speed. Let me see, I saw a couple questions up here. What's up, blah, blah? John's belt was missing too. That's telling to me. Yeah, nobody's talked about the belt still. 4 weeks of testimony, we have no idea anything about a belt, whether they have it, whether they don't, no matter what happens. If John did not have a jacket on, that's very telling to you. What does it tell you, K-Bird? What do you think? What does you think that means? T missing pure comedic genius in her super chats. I totally am. You guys are killing me. Who did you say has since been promoted? Who did you say has since been promoted? Who did I say who has since been promoted? I don't know. Did I say somebody was promoted? Did I say that? Sherry, I don't know. Did I say that? No, I couldn't remember if he was just an officer. I think he was a sergeant. And so I don't think he was promoted since. I think he was a sergeant at the time. So that's the only one I think that maybe you're talking about. Or did I say it on a different live? Hey, Aaron. The worst things they could come up with, and they know that female functions make all males cringe and stop listening. Maybe. When I got bad news about my brother in a bad accident, I couldn't accept it at first. Trauma affects perception a lot. That's sad. Okay, let me go to these super chats and see what these guys are doing in here. Hey, is Jay here? I missed him. Hi, Jay. Jay looking sexy in the stream with his crew. Love Jay. Hashtag feed Bob. Francis. My wife tells me to get off when I try mouth to mouth. She's not accepting of your mouth to mouth. Probably because she's not in need. Nice try. Nice try. Oh, yeah. Well, Holman got promoted in that was Delphi though. Don't be getting them all mixed up now, Aaron. We don't have a Holman here. Nope, back roads you get stuck. It's going to be a while. You take main roads in a blizzard if you follow a plow. Oh. Mama K. T. It's like she was expecting litigation, which the police didn't even think at that moment. He was missing a shoe, but that was found. Kelt says don't try chest compressions. That'll get you in trouble. Hey Jay. I've other Jay. EMT guy said he got promoted and Lolly moved off that real quick. Oh, Patty. Maybe that's what it was. That would have been a while ago. Did Karen even try to contact John to make sure he got inside okay? I mean, was only wearing a pullover in freezing temperatures. So yeah, so she was actually calling John incessantly. And we're going to get to hear some of the calls that ended up on the voicemail apparently because they're allowing those in. And yeah, so she was calling to try to figure out if he had gotten inside. And then she was calling him later because she had never heard back from him, basically saying that he was a dick and how much she didn't like him and hated him because she was intoxicated and he was ignoring her. So, all right, let me see. I think that's pretty much going to be about it. So Karen called repeatedly. She went to the chapel to say a prayer. John's cousin told her the family was going to go in to meet with the doctor. John's mom came out and told her that John had passed. And John's mom asked if she wanted to see him. She did go in and see him, and she said that she thought it would be better than what she had seen before, but she said it was worse. She said his eyes were huge. He had scratches on his right arm. Karen was calling and asked her to look out for when her dad, Karen's dad, got there. And then John's dad pointed him out when he came in, and so she went over and told him that John's dad wanted to talk to him, we have no idea what that communication was. She ends up leaving the hospital and went to John's house to drop off John's dad, and then she ended up going home. There was lots of snow, very poor visibility. She said 2 troopers came to her house. She does not remember their names. They interviewed her and her husband separately. This is on the 29th. She said that she interviewed with Proctor once at Jen's house, and she was there making a timeline because John's mom wanted them to write everything down so they would remember. Now, they're trying to put this on Peggy, and that's kind of frustrating to me because, yeah, they probably should have written everything down, but they shouldn't have done it together. And I think that's kind of the point that Jackson was trying to get at. Like, that's like collusion. Like you can't collude with each other to come up with the story. And she's like, no, we were just coming up with this timeline because of Peggy. But if Peggy's just saying to Carrie, like, hey, write this down, like, go write down everything that you remember, because you know, it's going to be a while. Like, you may forget some of the things, so go write down everything. So I didn't really like that she was like, I don't think Peggy was like, hey, the two of you get together, create a timeline of everything that happened. I don't know, maybe she did, but that's not, I don't know, that's just kind of weird to me. They shouldn't have done it together. They absolutely should have gone home and wrote down anything that they remembered, and that would have been it, and not sharing each other's stories, because that just creates more confusion in their own brain of what they remember versus what they now, it's like a false memory, that what they think they remember because somebody told them to. It's problematic. But I also thought it was an interesting comment that this is supposedly something that happens on the 30th, right? When they go to visit Peggy. So it's the day after. And then, so Peggy's already telling them, like, this could be a while. Like, what did Peggy and Jen and Carrie on the 30th think could be a while? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That was just kind of weird. Nobody's arrested for anything yet. Karen doesn't get arrested until the 1st. So on the 30th, what could be a while? I don't know. That was interesting. But they meet up at her house on the 1st to make this timeline together. So maybe it was like right after Karen's arrested. I don't know. Jen was on the phone with Proctor when she wanted to talk to him, because she hadn't told anyone yet that when Karen called her, she had told her John was dead. So basically she's saying that first call, when Karen calls and says, John's dead, Carrie, and hangs up the phone, that she never told anybody that. So she wanted to make sure she told Proctor. So that's the phone call. And then another time Proctor was in Jen's living room. And then after that, she gave up her phone. She signed the waiver, no restrictions. They also took Jen's phone. They got them back about 7 or 8 hours later. She never talked to anybody in Canton PD. She does know the Lanks. She's friends with the Lanks' wife. And on January 30th, they went to the O'Keefe's. Then they went to Lanks to drop off her daughter. And she was outside speaking with Michael Lanks' wife to see how everybody was. And like, because they wanted, she wanted to talk about everything and talk about how the O'Keefe's were and, so on and so forth. And she was there for about 45 minutes. His wife had come outside and come to the car. And remember, it's a snowstorm and it's freezing outside. And so that she comes out to the car and sits in the car. Okay, I'll come help you in just a minute. So essentially, they're friends. She is friends with the Lanks, and they are hanging out at her house outside the next day after John O'Keefe passes away. She doesn't recall what was said, and she thinks that she went home after. And that's the end of that testimony. And then that's when I said, like, Elizabeth Little stands up and says, no cross, with no questions. That's it. And so to me, there was nothing in her testimony that was important enough for them to like harp on, question about, dig into, and anything else that was part of their, as part of the defense's third party theory, Carrie is essentially oblivious to, because she's used as a pawn. That Jen is just using her. Jen is the one who gets her to do all these things. And that's the defense theory. So they're like, yeah, Carrie didn't have anything that we need to go up there and have any questions for and bring that out in front of the jury. So done. No big deal. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to just say, essentially, Laura is friends with John, her son. John is her son's godfather, and they were going to Aruba. She's known John for years, since like 2013. They were going to Aruba. John ended up wanting to go. It was all the kids were going. There was a ton of people there. At some point, she finds out that Karen thinks that her younger sister was making out with John. Her younger sister says, hey, that's not true. And she essentially says that she hardly sees John and Karen and the kids after that on the trip. That's really her testimony. And then on cross, Yannetti stands up and he's like, were you at the waterfall? She's like, nope. Were you at 34 Fairview? Nope. But yet Proctor came to interview you. You, of all people, February 8th of 2022. Like, what relevance were you in February? We have how many witnesses that Proctor does not interview until the end of 2023, almost a year and a half later, essentially, when the federal grand jury is now investigating and the feds are involved. He's now interviewing other witnesses. But somebody who has nothing to do with anything, he takes the time to drive out however many hours away it is to go interview her and her sister. Like, how does he even know about them? Like, if the jury's not like, well, why are they interviewing you? What do you have to do with anything? So, but the biggest takeaway I had from this was that Karen pays for dinner just because she's happy to be there and wants to, probably try to fit in with his friends. She's never met this lady before. So she offers to pay for dinner. Okay, that's not a bad thing. And then after the fact of her accusing John of making out with her sister, she apparently realizes, which I didn't know this part until this testimony, was that Karen apparently realized that he didn't make out with her and there was a huge misunderstanding. And so she doesn't see the younger sister again, but she does see Laura, and she goes up and apologizes to her and says, I was wrong. I screwed up and I want to make it up to your sister, and I'm going to go pay for like part of her room because I screwed up so bad. So I was, up until this testimony, I was still under the impression there was a potential that John had made out with somebody else. But I mean, it's according to her that Karen had figured it out. So now this motive really turns into no motive. If she thinks that she was wrong and that he wasn't really making out with Laura's sister, then there goes your motive anyway. That's kind of my problem with the whole thing. Like, I thought they were bringing it in to show Karen's motive, but it just doesn't really fit now. Bye, Francis. Thank you. Thank you for the laughs. So I thought that was just kind of a weird thing. And then on redirect, Lolly just asked her like about the troopers that came to interview her in February, and that it was Trooper Proctor and Trooper Fanning, because what he's essentially doing is adding more people to the amount of people that would have to be involved in this quote unquote conspiracy that the defense is presenting, right? It's not necessarily true, because Trooper Fanning can interview people and not have a clue about what's going on with anybody who's involved in a conspiracy. So, and then here comes Marietta, who's Laura's younger sister, who is the one who was accused of making out with John. She says that basically what had happened was she came off the elevator. John was coming in from outside. You could tell he was intoxicated. He's stumbling. His eyes are glazed over. He's not really making eye contact with her. She does give him a hug, and then he starts to head down this hallway. He's like, I'm going this way, and so she kind of steers him that way. She says she goes to go outside, and she essentially hears somebody at that point. She'd never met Karen before. Hears somebody like screaming John's name and saying like, "Who the fuck was that?" And then so she comes back in, and and so she goes, and John's like, don't worry about it. That's Laura's little sister. And so she comes back in and she goes up to Karen like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And Karen like essentially screams like across the lobby at her, like, "Yeah, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, go fuck yourself." And then so she goes back and she's like, "Yeah, and fuck you too." And she said, and then I go out to the bar where she finds her sister, and then she's like, "Yeah, you guys like that Karen chick? Yeah, no, she's a bitch. I don't like her at all." And then she said she hardly ever saw John on the trip after that, which was not normal. He would have spent time, hanging out mostly, especially with her nephew, who's his godson. So it's, I mean, to me, I thought this was really all kind of pointless. I was like, what, I don't even know what we're talking about this for. I feel like Marietta actually was okay with testifying. She was breathing very heavy. Like, she was like, "Yeah, bitch, come at me. Like, let's see what happens." Like, she seemed like she would go, she seemed like she's the fighter. Like, I could see her making videos when she was a sophomore, like, "Yeah, roll up." Because she was like, "I'm not going to take no shit from you." Which I get it. Like, if somebody like says that to you and you don't know anything about it, like, they're just like, "Yeah, go fuck yourself." And she's like, "What?" Yeah, I'd be like, fuck you too then. So I don't disagree with her. But she just, I think she was like, yeah, I'll fucking testify against her. Yeah, she's like, roll up. Okay, yo, bang, bang. I can see her making that video. All right, I'm sorry. I have to leave you guys unattended for a minute. I got to go take care of Tiny Human. I will be right back. I will do it as fast as I possibly can. Give me just uno momento. Okay, I'm back. Sorry if that probably scared you guys. I'm like, okay, I'm back. Anyway, so Yannetti gets up and he does cross with Marietta too. Essentially the same thing. You weren't at Waterfall. You weren't at 34 Fairview. Yet Proctor decided right away that you guys needed to be interviewed. And then Lolly comes back up, essentially the same thing, but he tries to go a little bit further this time and just show that like they were following the protocols of interviewing them all separate. Like what they did, they did such a good job. They did such a good job by separating them when they were interviewing them. Okay, so that's those two. This was kind of a dud for me. I thought, okay, they got in a fight. Karen was jealous. She thought he was making out with somebody else. If I thought my man was making out with somebody else, I'd probably be really fucking pissed too. She was probably intoxicated. Remember, he's intoxicated, stumbling around the lobby. This is some chick. She doesn't know who this is. I don't know. I thought it was kind of a nothing burger. Let me see what you guys. Oh shoot, we didn't close out the poll on Carrie. 76% of the chat said that Carrie Roberts was a believable witness. 24% actually said no. I thought that was interesting. That's interesting. I think she was pretty good. I can tell she doesn't like Karen, but that doesn't make her not believable. So let me wrap that one up, and then I'm going to ask you guys. This is going to be a quick poll. Was the okay? Here we go. So was the Aruba trip relevant to this case? We'll make this a quick one because then we're gonna backpedal to the big one. All right, so let me see what you guys think. Did you guys drop some more? When T says, "Hey Jay, other Jay, resuscitate Jay." Hashtag feed Bob. Erica says, y'all hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you for the super chat. And then Grin for me, does anyone else feel like John had like 500 women in love with him and he was oblivious? Yes. Yes. And I think that these women that are married to these other men, for instance, the Kolakithas who were out with them that night, like they're all cuddly and lovey. And she was even telling her husband, like, why aren't you like that with me? Why come you're not all cute and cuddly with me? I think that they were. I think that they were like, man, if I had a do-over, I would definitely be with a John. Look at him stepping up. He's Yeah, women like single dads, you know, especially when there's no woman in the picture, there's no ex. And in this circumstance, like, you know, how they're not his, yet they're, you know, they're his family, and he steps up for his sister, knowing that that's what she would have wanted. I think so. I think a lot of them, maybe not in love, but definitely could have pictured their lives with John or a John versus their husbands who are, you know, not cute, not cuddly. They're out drinking every night with their friends. I mean, think about it. Even, and this has nothing to do with the actual John O'Keefe thing, but think about it. Like, Brian Albert is driving back from New York with Brian Higgins, and he knows that his family is at Waterfall, and yet he decides to stop because they've already been at Waterfall. Remember, they're at Waterfall for hours at that point by the time he gets there. He decides to stop at the hillside with Higgins before going to be with his wife and his family and his daughter, who's like, is he going to come? Or like, what's going on? I wanted to see him. So I think they probably all had a little bit of jealousy on wanting a little John in their lives. He's nice looking. He's a boss. He seemed like he's extremely kind. Not necessarily oblivious. It sounds like he played the field quite a bit, according to Carrie. But according to his brother, well, I guess he was technically asked how many serious relationships he'd had since he took the kids. Not how many times, like how many different women had he dated, just how many like serious relationships he had. And that was the two. That was the Amy and Karen, which could make for jealous husbands. You're right, it could. I do believe, like all these people, he seemed to have a problem with alcohol. I think yeah, all of them for sure. Like, how many people do you know? Like, I just could not imagine going out. I don't know. Maybe it's because I had the kids. I don't know. Maybe that's what makes the difference. I don't know, but these moms are out there and they're just like, they're like lushes. And then you hear, like, during testimony, they were at the hillside the weekend before drinking. Amy is Bella's mom? I didn't think it was. Was it? I don't think Amy's Bella's mom. I thought I wrote down her name. Hold on. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't write it down. If it was, I didn't think it was Amy. They are all Irish. Well, fair. Right? Okay, and Susie Q, I want to touch on that for just a hot second too, because let me just, the fact that, and I'm going to try to say this with as much couth as I possibly can, and it's going to probably come off really bad, but I don't necessarily mean it bad. How many men are looking for long-term relationships with a woman to take care of their kids that aren't really their kids, but are their kids now, that has MS and has had the types of, this is why I'm like, this is going to sound bad, that's had the types of surgeries that she's had and has to take the medications that she has to take. And like her, you know, self-care is going to be a little different. Like, that's the woman. You don't think that he actually loved her. You think he was using her as a babysitter with benefits. I don't know. That just doesn't, it seems like he had a lot of options on women he could have picked to have benefits that would babysit. I don't know. And that's why I'm like, I'm trying not to come off like, I just, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm thinking like, yeah, no, I don't think so. Like, he knew what the future was going to be like with Karen because of her medical issues. And I just don't think he's like, yeah, let's just have, whatever. I just don't see it. So I'm like, I'm not trying to be like, I don't know how to say that without being an asshole. John and Karen had dated when they were younger, in their 20s, before his sister passed away. Yeah. I don't know how serious they were then, but I think so. That's what I think. I think so. Not to mention he's purposely trying to get her involved with everybody in his life. He's trying to he contacts Matt and Jen and wants to go he's like trying to incorporate her into his friendship. She's like, here, look at you have MS and so does so does Jen. Like, you guys would definitely be able to be friends over that. You know what I mean? Like, you guys would have something to bond with. And Jen even says, yeah, it's not normal that you meet many people that are our age that are diagnosed with it. So it was like a bond that they had. I don't think he was. I thought that was their disdain for Karen speaking. Oh, that you don't think he was using her. It's progressive. He likely would have ended up taking care of her. Yeah, that's what I'm trying. I don't know how to say that without sounding like a dick. I need my yard mode. I'm not looking for a gardener with benefits. I'm going to tell my husband that one since he does our yard. Oh, shit. Sorry. My mom has MS, and she took care of my dad while he died of cancer. Aw, it's the deal people make when they love each other, right? When they love each other. Nanya, you broke me. I'm broke. We can kill. It's like, yeah, we can. I'm like, I'm looking for a gardener, husband. I'm not looking for a gardener with benefits. I'm looking for a handyman. I don't need no benefits. I'm cracking up because you cracked up. It's just so funny. I was just thinking, like, he does all of this. He does all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not looking for anybody with benefits. LFG. We all hear these people talking shit about their relationships because they are haters. Well, I'm sure they had their issues. I'm not saying like they're like perfect, but I don't know. It's just they're all cute and cuddly that night, but then she's supposedly telling people that she got in a fight with them at Waterfall. Well, guess what? Like, they have the video of Waterfall. There is no fight. So is her memory really just that bad? She doesn't remember going to Fairview. So maybe there's just something, like, maybe she thinks like, maybe we got in a fight. Like, shit, I don't remember. Did we get in a fight? Yeah, we've been together 17, so yeah, that's how it goes, Susie. Maybe it was the security of knowing Karen didn't need to rely on him financially. That's another great point. I don't know how it is in Massachusetts, but I know out here, even when you adopt children, you still get money from the state. Plus, he was a Boston cop, so he wasn't making like chump change. Amy is Bella's mom, would make perfect babysitter with benefits, or the dance teacher. Not Karen. The dance teacher is Bella's mom. I don't think Amy's Bella's mom, but did we ever figure that out? I think I went off on a totally different tangent and never even finished looking. Karen doesn't act like a Karen. People have put out screenshots, but you guys know how I feel about screenshots. They have put out screenshots of, and so many people know that Turtle Boy has been charged with these counts of witness intimidation, and so there's stuff that's come out in his case that many people have combined into this case, and so he was supposedly had a lot of communications with Karen Reed, and so people are putting out like these screenshots. I've never dove into the Turtle Boy charges. I just know that they exist. I don't know what they consist of or exactly how everything went down, or if they're legit or not legit. Never looked at it, so I have no opinion on it really. But these screenshots are supposedly coming from that. I have a hard time always believing in screenshots, but supposedly Karen is talking some shit about other people in these messages. One of them in particular would be Laura, the lady from Aruba. I bet Jen tried to tell Karen they fought at Waterfall. Maybe. She's like, no, you guys got in this big old fight. They do seem really catty. Like, that would be the big takeaway I have from Carrie's testimony. She doesn't seem, she just did not like her. She did not like Karen. Ashley. Thank you. Ashley. It was an A name. I was like, yeah, it's not Ashley. Oh, there we go. Hey. I guess you guys are screaming at me because I'm probably not paying attention. Bella's mom is named Ashley. That's why they started screaming at me, because you guys are all telling me and I'm not paying attention. I was just all up in my own little conversation. Hello. 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 Jen is more of a Karen than a Karen. This is so true. So true. Jen is a total Karen. Talking shit doesn't make Karen a murderer. Yep, that's true too. Good point. Anyone else start singing that Beach Boys song every time T says Aruba, Jamaica? Ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama. That could actually tie in with Delphi. Way down in Kokomo. Who? Amy is his ex-girlfriend. Amy is the one that Jen tells the world that Carrie thought John really loved Amy and that Karen is just a babysitter with benefits. There was a split second I thought maybe Karen didn't drive John to 34. Heather might have seen Jen and Matt driving to 34. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know how valid they are. I'm just saying, like, those screenshots are that crazy lady who was supposedly relaying messages from Karen to Turtle Boy. They weren't even written by Karen. Okay, well, there you have it. That's why I'm like, you would know more than I would. So there, I'll go. I trust Sleuthy. Absolutely. I'll go with that. Yes. But she called her Ashley. Did she call her the wrong name then, Patty? Maybe we need to dig into this. Maybe she just calls her Ashley because she doesn't actually know her name. But she thinks she would because she's the friend and the husband meets all the girls. She doesn't call her Amy. She calls her Ashley. I swear I wrote it down in one of my notes, but I don't remember where. All right, let's talk about you. Okay, I should turn my camera on and show you guys this. So I started to, oh, you can't even see it anyway. So anyway, I took all of Jen's testimony from cross-examination. I downloaded it and edited out all the breaks and the flipping of papers, and every single time that she was like, well, can I see that? Can I see that? Can I see that? Well, do you have it? Let me see it. Like, and then she sits there for 5 minutes. So I edited all of that stuff out. And I was like, okay, maybe that'll make it short enough, because when I tried to just listen and write down timestamps of what I thought we should listen to when we reviewed her testimony, I was like writing down like every other minute. I was like, that's not going to work. It's too, I know I'm a nerd. Is it 3 minutes? No. So it ended up, and it's not her direct, it's cross, redirect, and recross. And it ended up being 4 hours and 11 minutes. I took out all the sidebars, and I was like, okay, because I was like, we should probably just, at that point I was thinking like I could probably get it condensed down where we could just sit here and watch it, because it was not, there's no way to like say like all the timestamps of the stuff that was important, and how she, the reactions on her face, like reading this cannot even do it justice. I've listened to it so many times, Aaron. It's so bad. I could probably just, I don't even know. But you cannot express her facial mannerisms, and just her and Alan Jackson do not like each other. She does not like anybody on that defense team. She does not like Karen Reed. She obviously very much hates Turtle Boy. Stop like Steve Urkel. Poor T having to listen and pay attention to Jim for so long. Well, I tried, but I'm telling you, I'll tell you here. So here, 6 minutes and 50 seconds to 8 minutes. Okay, that was my first one. 10 minutes to 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Next one's 21 minutes. Oh no, next one's 18 minutes to 21 minutes, and then 24 to 27. 29. It was like every other minute. I was like, I give up. I just tossed it. I was like, I can't do it. She's such a bitch. So and like I said, at the very beginning of this live, I'm going to tell you my opinions on the witnesses. Does not mean one way or the other whether I've made up my mind about Karen. But I can tell you right now, this lady, I would never want to be friends with her in real life. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. She would not be the person I would ever go to for help about anything. She is, and I don't care. Not that I don't care, and I don't mean it that way. Her reactions to what is happening as she's sitting on that stand, I don't care about the amount of harassment she's gone through. Not that I don't care in general, but I do not believe that her sitting on that stand and the way that she acted was appropriate at all. It was so, I don't even know the right words, methodically rehearsed into bullshit that I was having like reactions, like listening to her, which I don't typically. Normally I can like listen and like take notes and, you know, do what I got to do. With her, I literally was like, my jaw was dropping on the floor with things she was saying and the reactions from Alan Jackson, because there was just something to their dynamic that was, I mean, I knew it was going to be spicy, but it was like fire. It was like, you know, when you go to a restaurant and you have the little peppers on your menu that show you how hot shit is. Like, it was off the fucking menu spicy. So I cannot do it justice in an hour to be able to tell you how spicy it was. If anything, you guys have, if anything you've missed, and at any time, that is the one thing that I would tell you that you have to go back and watch. And I know it's long. It's 4 hours and 11 minutes without all the extra shit. She is a control freak. She has to be in control. And I almost like want to go back and listen to Matt McCabe's testimony and Allie's testimony. Allie's testimony makes so much more sense to me now. When I had gotten, my first reaction to her was I thought she was very honest, but that she would lie for her family. And I'm like, now I know why. Because she wouldn't have a choice. Otherwise, this woman would be the mom that disowns you and tells you like you're no longer her daughter. Like, so she doesn't want to lie and she wanted to tell the truth or whatever, she wouldn't let her. And not to say it was lies, but I'm just like, that was the reaction I had. That she is an absolute control freak. She had to be in control of every single thing that happened. So that was the other list I was making, was how many times she just editorializes her entire testimony. She can't stop talking. She cannot answer things yes or no. She cannot just say, this is what happened. She has to add a comment to everything. And I was like, you are really not doing yourself any justice, because the way you're acting, I'm thinking something's up with you. It was bad for her. That's how that was my interpretation. I went to go check other channels and to see what other people thought. And some people were like, Jen McCabe owned Alan Jackson's ass when she was on that stand, and he didn't know what hit him, and da 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 da. And I was like, I did not see it that way. She went up there and we did her direct on my last live. And I actually was like, okay, this is pleasant. She was kind of bitchy, but it was pleasant. Like, I was like, okay, we're going to be able to get through this. And I figured it would be spicy just because I knew they didn't like each other. But she was just a fucking bitch. That's all I don't have any other words. And I don't know her personally. She might be the greatest person in the whole world, but she did not come off that way at all. At all. There's one thing I don't do. I do a lot of things, but there's one thing I don't do, Sherry D, is I don't spin things. And there's a judge here in the courtroom to make sure I don't spin things. Oh, Grin for Me, are you leaving? I went off on a tangent and missed Grin for Me leaving. Okay, T in chat, love y'all. Have a good night. Do what my last super chat said. Be well and treat everyone with kindness. Let me see it. Here you go. Smack that like. Stomp that thumb. Otherwise, take a hike, because you be dumb. So dumb. Thank you, Grin, for me. I appreciate it. Well, she's not a hostile witness because she was actually a prosecution witness or a Commonwealth witness here. And so if they called her back, which Lolly's making their case, I think, a lot easier because I don't know how many of these people are actually going to have to call back. Oh man, I don't even know how to go through this, to be honest with you. She got dunked. Anyone who says otherwise is simply wrong, or they're just so biased they don't see how bad this looked for her. Not to mention, Lolly he hardly objects the entire testimony. He essentially just lets her out there. He just is like, yeah, Alan Jackson, just say what you got to say. It was the first time that, people have speculated, like, is Lolly working for the FBI? Like, is he just doing this like as like for funsies so that the FBI can see what's going on? I never thought that. And then I was like, Lolly, what are you doing? Why aren't you objecting to some of this stuff? I thought she was terrible. Do you think that John's brothers and parents are seeing this? Well, I can tell you on Tuesday, towards the end of the day, during Jen's testimony, John's dad left. He left the courtroom. Why did he leave? Maybe he had to use the restroom and it just chose that time to do so. I don't know, but he left. Jen said, are you asking about this case? What other case would he be talking about? Yeah, he wouldn't be talking about the other case. He has nothing to do with the other case. It's so stupid. Because the other case, like, she's like, well, we don't talk about this case. We talk about all the harassment and how we're terrorized and how we're this and how we're that. I was so like, okay. Obviously, that's nothing to do with this case. Now, on the outside, you can tie them together. But in the courtroom, Alan Jackson and David Yannetti and Karen Reed are not involved in the other case at all. They're not in part of it. It's against Turtle Boy. So when I say, yeah, have you guys talked about this case? Yeah, this case. The case of the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed in the death of Officer John O'Keefe. Like, that's the only case we're here for, Jen McCabe. Hold on. No. I was talking about Jen McCabe saying that to Alan Jackson. I think I was just joking around with my answer, but now I got to go back and see what you said. Hold on. Shit, where is it? What did I just talked about it. It was 5 minutes ago. That's Alan Jackson. I'd be like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. 5 minutes ago is a really long time. I don't remember what the fuck you said. I was with her on that. I was like, I don't even know. I have no idea. I'm like, shit, I don't know what you said 5 minutes ago. You're going to have to type it again, Sherry. I don't even know. I was talking about Jen McCabe making the comment to Alan Jackson. Oh, you were behind on the line. I don't know. I think I was joking around with it. Whatever response I had. It was the spinning comment. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was giving you the Alan Jackson response. That's what he said. That's what his response was in court to Jen McCabe. I watched Emily Baker. She's fucking funny. Stream with Jen testifying to check my bias, and Emily was roasting Jen, so my opinion is valid. I like Emily Baker. Jen pulled a Charlie Adelson with the memorization of all the docs. How in the world, like, she could not remember her own testimony and only wanted to be able to see the documents. She was so afraid of saying the wrong thing, like of not repeating exactly what she said before, instead of just saying, like, he's like, hey, so, in the April of 2022 state grand jury, they asked you about Life 360. She's been, yep. And you said something along the lines of, yeah, it's accurate. I use it to track my kids and make sure that they're where they're supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. she could have been like, yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, that's what I said. I said something along those lines. You know what I mean? But no, she doesn't. She's just like, well, what did I say? You have the paper. Can I have it? Can you show it to me? And I'm like, just say, yeah, it was something like that. I thought it was pretty accurate. Like I never really paid attention to it not being accurate. Obviously, there's a first time it becomes not accurate, but I'm just like, I don't know, her just reaction to everything. Well, do you have it? I know. And then he's like, I should just go through the notes because then it'll remind me of all the things I wanted to talk to you guys about. So let me just do that. We'll just read through them and then we'll stop and talk about all the things that I'm like, holy crap, what the hell happened there? Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're gonna do our best to wrap this up as quick as possible. I don't have any idea how we're gonna do it because I talk so damn much. So it starts out pretty slow. Family's important to you, yes. You knew John O'Keefe, he was your friend. Karen Reed was your friend, but they're not family. They're not a McCabe. They're not an Albert. Talks about at the waterfall that there was no tension. Didn't see them interact much. She had separate conversations with each of them. He pulls up like the waterfall footage and he's showing her how she was like outside and she was with she was with Karen and Mrs. Kolakitha, I can't remember her, Karina. And she's like, you're coming with me. And she's like, no, I was saying like, why don't you come with me? Because Matt and John were still in the bar. And I was just saying like, you ride with me and then they can like, they'll ride together and they can, I'll get you there and he'll get him there kind of thing. Makes sense to me. I could see that. Alan Jackson tries to like imply that they're purposely trying to separate them. I didn't buy that. I did not buy that this was a purposeful thing to try to separate John and Karen. I know that's where he was going with it. I didn't think so. I do believe that it was just an innocent like ride with me and they can ride over together because you guys don't know where you're going anyway and this will work out better. I see it that way. They get to the Alberts and they go over like who was there? Like everybody that was in the house. Said Higgins was there. She saw his vehicle a little in front of the mailbox. Now, she's the second person that's testified to this, and the other person is her husband. Now, that's weird because nobody else, no other person has testified that the Jeep was parked at the mailbox except for her and her husband. And we know from pre-trial interviews, Higgins also said his Jeep was parked there. But these other people just don't see it. It's just not there. Makes no sense. I think Jen approached her because if she got Karen to go, she knew John would go. Right, Susie Q. I could see that too. I don't see it as something nefarious that there was a setup. I don't see it. And maybe I'll change my mind on that because like I said, as other witnesses start testifying and we start getting information from them, it makes me go back to the other ones going like, hey, wait, what's going on? So maybe I'll start to see that. But as of right now, I don't buy it. I don't think that there was some conspiracy to get them separated and have her at the house at a different time than John. I don't see it. I think it would, if anything, it was a, hey, if she's there, then I know John's going to show up because he needs to get hurt kind of thing. I could see that. So the whole Jeep thing that's going to be a huge thing in the where this Jeep is parked and why it's moved and who moves it and when is it moved, if it was ever there to begin with. And he's like, you and Matt have discussed the Jeep. There's a whole bunch of back and forth on that. And eventually the answer is just yes. But she can't answer that way. It makes note taking for her very hard. I had to stop a lot because she just has such a narrative that she's trying to put out there. And that was one of my biggest problems with her. There was when Caitlin Albert testified, I thought Caitlin was pretty believable. And my issue with her was this having to editorialize every comment, like adding the story that they want to be told, adding that in. All right, I should close this. I'm going to close out this poll real quick. Was the Aruba trip relevant? Most of you guys are all in agreement, 91%. I like to do the polls this way because it kind of helps like what a potential jury pool would think. Especially it gives people who don't typically comment in the chat, it gives them somewhere to kind of put their opinion, and it counts because what, you might have a juror in there who doesn't talk a lot and doesn't say their opinion a lot, but they're going to vote a certain way. So Aruba trip relevant. 91% of you said no. 9% said yes. I would be curious about the 9% and why you think it's relevant, though. I should have asked that before, but we've already moved on and now I can't. But I am curious about that. If anybody wants to drop a line in chat about why they found the Aruba trip relevant. Now let's put up the new one about Jen. And the last poll we did for her direct testimony, it was like, I think she was like a 16% not believable, if I remember right. Oh, did you, LFT? You found it relevant? Ariel said the Aruba trip was relevant to show how bitchy the women were. But they didn't even have these other women there to be bitchy. LFT, why did you vote that it was relevant? Is Jen McCabe a believable witness? Jen was 95% not credible on my last Twitter poll. Is Jen McCabe a believable witness? Yes or no? Okay. The trip shows the group behavior and dynamics, but it's a different group, so does it matter? I mean, it would probably have been more relevant had it been even one of the people that was in the same group. Fightbot. It's relevant because Karen said herself in the 2020 interview that her and John were rehashing it that morning, and he told her to spend time at her house if she couldn't get over it. Okay, very good point to the public. I agree with you. Makes it relevant to us. We haven't heard that as a juror yet, though. So right now in the trial, I'm still going to go not relevant unless that comes up, and then I absolutely see your point. It goes to her drinking and jealousy. Amy Lou. So that's a good point, though. I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Voted yes because I thought that option needed a little boost and loved her. LFT, you can't feel bad for the options. Karen's probably was his staying out drinking and using her like a personal babysitter. I bet that probably really hurt her feelings. It goes to his drinking too. Right. I know that they were trying to get, and Sleuthy or somebody else in chat that happens to know, they were trying to get the unaired footage in, like the interview with Gretchen Voss. Is that her name? I don't know. That's why I want to say her name is, but I don't know why I question myself now. But they were trying to get the unaired stuff in, the interview stuff. Hey, Scott, the deleted 227 Google search bothers me more than the original 227 AM Google search. Like, why is it deleted? The fact that that one shows deleted, but yet has that same thing in it. I could see that. My new theory is that Jen hit John over the head with a gigantic bully stick and then gnawed on John's arm and dragged him out the yard with her teeth. I did not expect to read that when I highlighted that comment. It's so bad. It's so bad. I pulled that up and I was reading it so serious, and then I read the whole thing and I'm like, oh my God. It was not what I expected to read at all. Gosh, you guys are killing me. Can we add another option to Jen's like slightly frightening, intense witness option? Like if she scared me, so I have to believe her. Oh gosh. Am I the only one who can breathe? No, I couldn't breathe for a minute. I did it. So I was totally serious. I thought that it was Ariel, for goodness sakes. She's always like dropping facts and shit in the chat. So I was like, okay, I'll read what she said. So I was totally like reading it like I would read an Ariel comment. And I was not expecting it. That is actually the impression she left. I know, I should probably pin that comment instead. Oh shit. This whole let's comment because you're like, oh shit, I gotta comment on that. Ariel, I'm so proud of you. Oh, kind of blah. She kind of does. She just like, I'm just like, oh shit. Her husband's probably just really like in line. Oh gosh. Okay. Compose myself. We're still on page 1. I'm never gonna make it through this. Athena, I think you might be behind because I think you're talking about surgeries from when I said surgery. So I think you might be behind on chat. Maybe somebody in chat, can you guys put in the chat the surgeries? I don't know if it doesn't necessarily the actual surgeries, but like what, so somebody can respond to Athena because I think she's way behind. Matt's too scared. Or maybe he likes it. Okay. We can probably go back and listen to it as well. I'm almost positive they said it was Ashley. And I think it might be Carrie that actually says it's Ashley. So it wouldn't even be that long of a testimony. It's not like having to go through Jen McCabe's. Okay. Where am I? We haven't even made it through half of the first part of this. I'm never going to be able to. We're going to have to like do it. Maybe I should just set it up where we just listen to her entire thing like one day over the weekend because it's just so much. It's just so much. Proctor on the 29th, she told me the SUV was facing Chapman. She's like, refresh my memory. Can you refresh my memory? I need that to refresh my memory. Does that reflect your recollection? Do they go back and forth again? At first, I'm putting banter, and then later on, I start putting argumentative because first it's just a little back and forth, and but as it goes on, like they start like there's like it's tense. I mean, if any day to be in the courtroom, you probably want to be in there on that day. That Tuesday would have been a good day to be there. So they can't get her to say yes or no. She's like, my memory is the car was right out in front of the house and yes, facing Chapman. Proctor wrote that. And she said closer to the driveway. She never mentioned the Jeep to Proctor. More refreshing with the documents. She never placed the SUV where she says the Jeep was, even though that's what Proctor wrote in his report. So Proctor's wrong. That's another big thing that happens is Proctor's reports are wrong. Lank's reports are wrong. Anybody else's recollection of things that happened is wrong. She is right. Everybody else made mistakes on what they said she said. She knows 100% the things she said because she's truthful and honest. Everybody else lied and everybody else is wrong. I think that's a very bad look for her. Tully's report, everybody's wrong. Everybody is wrong except for her. Fightbot, that one had me going too. I was wondering, and I had never really paid much attention to that part of it. Is have the attorneys been getting harassed? I mean, because I would assume that with how strong-minded both sides are on this case, that he's probably like his comments almost sounded to me like, yeah, I bet it does suck. Like, saying it like, yeah, I know how much it sucks because, you and your people and all the people that you're talking to are doing that shit to me. Like, that's how it sounded to me. Now, I don't know that to be true, so please don't don't go around being like, criminality said that Alan Jackson's being harassed. I don't know that to be true. It's how it came off to me. Because I was like, what? They all have very, very flexible butts. My takeaway is everyone is wrong but her, and she can't see an alligator in her. Yes. They're doing that shit to Karen. Yeah, I just wondered if they were doing it to him because he kind of said it like it was super personal. Fall River reporter in the courtroom said that when AJ said it sucks, he put his hand on Karen's shoulder. Oh. Ew. Oh, you took it like he was mocking her. I didn't. I took it like it was a personal thing. Yeah, like I bet it does suck. Grant asked Alan Jackson about Melanie Little. What did he ask him about Melanie Little? Hey, Eris, good to see you. You think she'll be found guilty? I cannot imagine that she's going to be found guilty on the second degree. That just blows my mind. Now, will they compromise and find her guilty on something else? I do think it's possible. On one of the other two charges, or both of the other charges. But I'm so not convinced yet of any of this. I mean, like, this is literally my my opinion as of today in this trial. You know, day 16 in week 4. Like, that's where I'm at with it. I do not know. Once things start rolling with some of the experts I made, yeah, everything might change. I am not like marking anything in stone right now. Oh, accuse them of vacationing in Mexico together. I do remember that. I do remember that. Oh yeah, milk. Wait, I know that's what I put that out there because I'm like, ooh, this is just a little snippet of what we get to see. But I think Jackson is actually going to be doing his cross, Higgins cross, because at the end they were I want to say Judge Goal almost. Judge Bev was like, you know, I'd really like to get this witness done in a day. And she said for a lot of reasons. But I thought that's interesting. I think Jackson said, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best to like make sure we're done. I figured it was because it's a 3-day weekend and then Tuesday they come back. It's the only day they're in session next week is they're only one day of trial on Tuesday. Yes, Aaron, that's exactly what it was. Like if I was before Jen going up there, I was on the fence like, okay, some of these people are just not honest. They're lying. What are they lying about? I was like, maybe there's some other reason Brian Albert gets rid of his phone. You know, I was kind of given a lot of benefit of the doubt. I'll tell you, since I can't really go through all of this, we'll have to figure out. We'll have to just maybe we'll do like a little just mini restream of the 4 hours or something. I guess that wouldn't be mini, huh? But there's just no. I mean, I got to cook dinner for the kids, so there's no way I can see it. I should have done this differently, but I didn't. So here we are. But I say one of the biggest things that I took away was the circle, and I know that on like Bob and Jay's they were talking about like did Bob think that the circle was going to make the like closing arguments, and I would say that was probably one of the biggest things that I had like a holy shit, like there really is this circle. She's admitting it without admitting it. She's saying like, no, we're talking on this text message and we're going through and saying, hey, we don't want to put things in this text message. And then they try to use the kids as an excuse. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And I'm going to say exactly why I'm going to call bullshit. Like we didn't want the kids to have to hear this kind of stuff. Okay. You testified you're eating dinner in the room with your kids while Carrie's being interviewed about this very thing where you can all hear her while you're sitting at the dinner table. Don't tell me that you're not putting stuff in text messages because of your kids. You have no problem sitting at the dinner table while somebody who doesn't live with you is being interviewed in the other room and they're all listening. And you know they're all listening because both her and Matt are texting this little circle of people while they're eating dinner. So she's like, I'm eating dinner with my kids. Bitch, no, you're not. You are sitting there, you are listening, and you and your husband are sitting there on your phones. Bullshit. I was like, I don't believe that. And then she's like, well, Carrie was just going on and on and on like she does. And then Alan Jackson was like, and you were just eavesdropping on and on like you do. I was like, holy crap. Oh, man. She didn't have much to say to that. Well, she started it being about the kids and ending with not wanting to skew the investigation with the police. She was not believable. She is not believable. And I'll tell you the other thing, like I said, because I can't go through all of it, but the other thing that I really, really, really bothered me about her, judge ruled long weekend. See y'all peeps in June. The other thing that really bothered me about her was anytime she couldn't remember something or pretended to not remember something, she would talk about, like, Jackson brings up that another Albert came over, and she's like, I wasn't there when Kevin Albert came over. And he's like, well, then how did you know who I was even going to say? And she was like, well, because, I don't know. I don't really recall. I was traumatized, and, I just lost my friend that I love. And I was like, okay, when things aren't going your way, that morning is so chaotic or crazy or traumatizing. That's what's causing your memory to lapse. But yet you sit there and you say, I 100% can tell you this is exactly what she said and who she said it to and when she said it. So you're not traumatized. It's not chaotic. And you can remember all of those things when it comes to Karen Reed. But when it comes to these other conversations, I don't know where Chloe is. I was just trying to get them to wake up. I couldn't see Chloe. I didn't know where anything was. I didn't know where anybody was. I am just like, you've got, like, what is going, like, how is everything super chaotic when you can't remember anything? And it's so traumatizing. It was horrific. It was traumatizing. I was just trying to figure out what happened to my friend that I love. But yet, when it's a question about Karen Reed, she knows everything. Exactly where Karen was standing, exactly where she was standing, exactly when all of these things were happening. And her memory's perfect. She was in shock. I was in shock. Yeah, that's the other one. I was in shock. I'm like, bitch, no. You're lying. I would believe you if you just said, you know what? Everything was so chaotic. This is what I remember. And I almost more like when Carrie testified, like, I thought we looked at the taillight when we were going in, but obviously it was when we were going out because, they just showed the video and it's not then. That makes more sense. My memory just thinks it was then. Well, is it your memory that thinks it was then? Because ironically, that's the exact same memory that Jen testified to. So I would believe it if it was like things were so chaotic. Like this is kind of how I remember things going down. These false memories and this perfect memory around everything bad that Karen did. We were going to Fairview. Oh, I gotta put my camera on for this one. Hold on. This bugged me so much. She's like, we were going to Fairview because your client said so. Because your client wanted to go there. Because your client knew where he was. Because your client said that he was going to be there. Because your client knew he was dead. I was like, you've got to stop doing that. You've got to stop doing that. And obviously, from everybody else's testimony, we know that Karen didn't even know she'd gone to Fairview. Matt testified to that. She'd already testified to that. Yet, she's like, we went there because your client said so. Because your client killed him. Because your client knew he was dead. Because your client knew where he was. I was like, oh, Alan Jackson, how he maintained his composure. I probably would have said a lot of nasty things too. And I get it. Like, I get she doesn't like him, but she does realize why she's there. She has a very high paid attorney who has been coaching her, obviously, for a very long time. The other thing that I want to point out, not to go too far into this harassment stuff, but she has to make sure she gets the harassment comments in there. Even when they're not pertinent to the answer, well, the harassment and the, everything that we've been, doing in the last 2 years, and she keeps saying the last 2 years. This is problematic for her, not for me. It's problematic for her because she also testifies that the harassment started in April of 2023. And that the reason that none of the stuff, and this is what her daughter testifies to and everybody else, none of the stuff with Colin was relevant until the people on social media started harassing them in April of 2023. Well, we're in May of 2024. So now she's now has 2 years of harassment. Well, so were people already immediately questioning her after this that she did something wrong? Was the local public already being like, wait a minute, what? Your story doesn't make sense. Or is she just lying? Because once again, according to her, this online harassment didn't start until April. But I could not stand that. I just was so frustrated with her. She like her head up to the microphone because your client said so, because your client knew, because your client told us to go there. And it's like, no, that's not what happened. And you've already testified that's not what happened. Turtle Boy's first article was April of 2022. So do you think that when she testifies, she just messes up the year? Okay, Turtle Boy's was April 2023. I didn't think he got into it until 2023 either, but I don't know enough to say any of that concretely. 2023. I bet she's gotten tons of customers. Ooh, I do have a question. Why do you guys think that Lolly wanted to bring up that she was a 5th grade teacher? Yeah, the Google search came out in April 2023, and I think that's when he was like on it. Turtle Boy show last night, he addressed some of the things that Jen testified. Example, she said something about her daughter's picture with sperm on it. So I saw something. Whose channel was that on? Might have been like Lair's. Or I think he was showing like the clips of when he was when Turtle Boy was leaving court today. And Turtle Boy was saying like Jen McCabe doesn't have that photo. Well, I don't know that to be true, but I do believe that if he knew about the photo, he would absolutely admit that he did. But I also don't put it past somebody else to make the photo and send it to Jen. So I don't know whether she actually has that kind of photo or if she completely made it up. That's another, those two people do not like each other. So I don't know. To make her look softer. Oh, I think that's why that came up. That was a lie. There is no photo. Well, that's why I'm like, I don't put it past somebody else to make a crazy ass photo like that. To prove that the education system is completely fucked. And they're like, this is not the time or the place. We need a sidebar. They can't go fighting for more money. She was a teacher. She stopped teaching to be a stay-at-home mom. But it didn't make sense to me. I was like, why did you where were you going with that? Not anymore. Like, did she quit working after they killed John? No, she was already a stay-at-home mom. 4 daughters in sports. She was like doing all the driving. Hey, true crime fangirl. It didn't make her look softer. It made her look like this is what happens when you. I gotta like start pre-reading your guys' comments. That's so bad. Somebody up above said that they actually think that she is somewhat of a sociopath. Thoughts on Lolly? This is too big of a case for him. I have no idea why he's doing this case. I also have no idea why we're even get to this case in front of a jury. That's where I'm at with it. How did they get this case in front of a jury? With what evidence? Because we haven't seen any evidence against Karen Reed yet. We're 4 weeks into this trial and there's no evidence that, and as Sluthia keeps putting it, she's like, they haven't even presented evidence that John's actually been declared dead at this point. We literally know every person, what they drank, who drove, what kind of cars they have, who was where when. We don't know where the Jeep was. That's like the big question, like about the vehicles. We know everything about like these people's lives and their family trees and what businesses they own, what jobs they do. They haven't even 4 weeks into this trial proven that John's dead. Like, obviously we know John's dead, but my point is like this trial is supposed to be against Karen Reed and John in John's death. Like, we're not there at all. We haven't got there at all. 4 weeks in. So I'm thinking that they may wrap up this. What does Bob call it? What did Bob and Jay call it? The pre-buttal with Higgins. I can't think of anybody else that would need to testify. Yeah, it's crazy to me. But then I'm like, who are you going to put on the stand on Tuesday? Who are you going to put on the stand on Tuesday that's going to make any... I was looking at their witness list. There's just so much about her that I would love to just go over. I should have... I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. Where is it? Where do I have it? That one. Like, who else they even have on here, really? They have the snowplow guy. I'm talking about just like the regular witnesses. They have the kids. Back in that, because I was rewatching pre-trial hearings today, as you guys know, because that's why I ended up clipping that stuff. When Lolly's talking about the rules about putting the kids on, that the judge actually is kind of warning him, like, that, you know, you may want to think about that. Like, you may not want to put the kids on. And he's like, we're not there yet. I just need to do all of this to, ensure if we do end up there, that we do end up putting them on, that, we've already got this part covered. Tanya, I do too. I hope he doesn't. But I at least felt better that he was, he was like, yeah, we're not sure we're doing that, but we're just trying to get all the things in. Hey, Gator Man. Everyone's scoreline at the basketball game. We know everybody's score. We do not know the outcome of the bowling match. We don't know that. Yeah, I don't think the kids need to be on there. So I was looking at who was left. So we've got, you got your medical examiner. There's more police officers they didn't put on, all the state police, because you've got Proctor and Buchnick and, Tolley. And so you have a whole bunch of like the state cops and other cops. But out of the regular people, we still have the medical examiner, which I'm sure we'll hear from. Then you have the kids. We got Higgins, who we know is coming up. I swear I wrote down who that was. I think that's the Celebrate guy. I thought I wrote it down. Maybe I didn't. You got some doctors and nurses. So you've got those guys. Those aren't really regular old people either. The journalist that they have, that they want all of her notes that she took, of the information that Karen gave her that was not aired. So she's on there. Somebody who's an information system manager. Then they got the alcohol people. They're going to have to put them on. They got the plow driver. Now this one, do you guys know who this is and why they would call her Jean DeMollis? It's a name that was familiar to me, but I could not. Yeah, he's the Celebrate guy. I thought I wrote that down, but I didn't. But this one I couldn't really place. This one and the James Sullivan. You guys know who that is? Do you guys know who either of those people are? I looked them up, and this one had to do with like the youth sports, and she was a bartender at some point. And this one actually owns a pool company. So I'm like, but these are this name is so common that I'm like, I don't even know if that. There's like 20 of those just in Canton alone. Jean is John's neighbor. Okay, perfect. She lived in between the Alberts and her. Ian is Celebrate, yeah. Oh, that's who he is. Wait, he can't be the husband of the Aruba girl, right? She didn't live there. Or does she just not live there now? I didn't think that was her husband. I think it's a different guy. I think they just happen to have the same name. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, it's Sully. Duh. Dumb. They got the the superintendent. They got the owner of the waterfall. This was another one, Jessica Hyde. What do you guys know about her? She's a healthcare person. I don't know what her relevance is. It was not a name that I was familiar with at all. She's another cell expert? Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to think of who would you put on if Higgins is done tomorrow, then who do you put Tuesday for a half a day, one day? You think it'd have to be somebody somewhat impactful. The ME maybe? What's the guy's name that was brought up yesterday that had ties with Mary Kent? Does anybody remember that? Do you think Berkowitz will testify, the dude that said that? I think so. I think they'll put him on. The plow driver's lucky. He's up here. I had him on here somewhere. Maybe I lost him. Did I lose him? No, he's right here. You think they'll put the plow driver on Tuesday? Ties with Kent. It's not jogging my memory. Somebody in chat may know. He's literally just calling people to kill time in the hopes that the Earth gets hit by an asteroid before he has to call Proctor. He does not want to put Proctor on the stand. Oh, they are doing a full day on Tuesday since it's the only day? Okay, that's good to know. He needs to try to get the jury. Well, whoever it is should be somebody impactful that the Commonwealth thinks that they're going to end on, to let the jury sit there for that many days thinking that that's the last testimony they heard. So that's why I was thinking ME. Does anybody remember the guy that was mentioned that had ties to Mary Kent? Okay, and let me pull this. So let me pull this back up. We can talk about this, and then I'm going to have to wrap it up. Yeah, I don't know. It would make sense. I think so. Okay, so now I got to ask you guys what you guys think of the Emmy won't help the defense much. Well, they have their own experts they're bringing in to back up their cause of death, or that the cause of death is not by a car. So we'll see more of that probably on theirs. They're just going to have to, with the Emmy, they're just going to make sure that they have holes to be able to fill with their own experts' testimony, in my opinion. The plow driver is on both. Susan. If Jen lied about one thing, she lied about everything. And absolutely. Well, now we have the possible impeachment of Katie McLaughlin, the paramedic who heard I hit him, because we know that her relationship with Caitlin was much closer than she let on when she took the stand. We have the possible impeachment of Colin Albert, who says he's never been in a fight with anybody but his brothers. And now there's videos circulating of him fighting. And I don't care whether the Commonwealth support or the Karen Reed did it supporters think that it's horseplay. They're actually like punching at each other, and he should have said that. Like, yeah, I've messed around, like I've fought kind of like that with my buddies or whatever. To me, it's playing with fighting. The only people I ever fought with was my brothers. I think it's going to be an issue. They're going to hammer the Emmy for saying not consistent with a fight after the Emmy is told to be looking at domestic violence. Sean McDonough spilled some tea, wondering about the other girls that were in the house that night, and Mary Kent is one of them. Oh, I do think I heard something about that. And oh shit, I do remember. Do you think Jennifer during cross day 1 thought to herself, yeah, this is going great for me. Got to come in the same energy tomorrow. She came in with bigger energy the next day. At that point, I don't think she cared. That's the whole thing about this not wanting to. So Carrie, it was obvious to me that she did not like Karen. I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, or it was just maybe I was just looking at it differently. I don't know. But to me, you could tell she didn't like Karen, but she did not make her testimony about that. She let her testimony speak for itself. She let her friendship with John speak for itself. She didn't have to sit on the stand and say, I'm honest, I'm telling the truth. I was friends with John. I loved John. Like, she didn't have to say any of those things. It came across that way. And like I said, whether she likes Karen or not doesn't make her a not reliable witness. I mean, it could sway things, but I'm just saying in the scheme of things, she's not up there fighting tooth and nail to prove what a great person she is and how everybody else is wrong, which I almost expected her to do after Jen, knowing that the amount of time they spent together putting this timeline together. So I was thinking, like, with Jen, why did she repeatedly have to tell the world that John was her friend and she loved him? She repeatedly had to tell the world that she was an honest person. She was there for the fight. Like, she came in to testify to fight. She didn't come in to get justice for John O'Keefe. And I think that's my big takeaway from her. And probably why I want to call her Karen so much. Okay, so Mary Kent is associated with Scanlon. Oh. Well, that would make sense. Possible impeachment. So if Colin on the stand made two comments, one about how he did not have any social media, and then 2 days later he posts on his social media. And then he also said he'd never been in a fight with anybody but his brothers, and now there's videos circulating of him fighting with his friends. Play fighting, not whatever it is, they're still hitting and fighting with each other. That, to me, was more fight looking than the waterfall grab ass, as Matt likes to call it. Like, that was playful to me. They were messing around, goofing off. I thought that the defense tried to push that a little too hard. The videos of Colin they're different. They're not like goofing off like that. She went there to spew venom about Karen. She wants justice for Jen. Yeah, she wants justice for Jen. I haven't seen the second one yet, Gator Man. Hey, Hammy, all I'm saying is that if I was in the Hunger Games with Jennifer, I know she'd be feral and think she'd win. Yes. Yes. So Scanlon is reportedly at the very beginning when they took on the case, the defense team with Yannetti, he had made a couple of comments about how he thought that it was probably like an accident, and that essentially they were taking it kind of too far. And I'm paraphrasing words. That's not verbatim what he said. And then somebody came into his office and said, hey, I have information that supposedly they beat the shit out of him in the basement and they took him out front to die. They asked him to write a statement, and he said that he did not want to. He didn't want any part of it. He's supposedly a friend of Brian Alberts. That's who we're talking about. That's Scanlon. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Do you think Allie took Chloe? I don't think Allie took Chloe. Didn't they ask Caitlin if she took Chloe? So these other three girls, so this is another rumor. I have nothing to support this. If you do, please tell me and I'll show it. But I personally don't have anything to support this. Supposedly, the 4 girls, but I think 3 left together and 1 left on their own. There was, so you know how there was like 6 girls total that came over for Brian Jr.'s birthday? The ones that had left when Colin was still there, apparently they said, this is a rumor, apparently they have, unless you know it to be different and you can show me the proof. I personally cannot show you proof, so I'm going to stick with that it's a rumor until I can show the proof myself. Supposedly they said that Colin was acting weird and drunk, and they know Colin and they know how he is when he's like that, and so that's why they left before midnight. They got out of there because Colin was there being Colin, that they know. And remember, Colin testified that he recognized like 3 of the girls, but not all of them. So like I said, I don't know if that's true or not true, but that's part of it. So maybe what the conversation in chat is happening has to do with that. And if those girls are somehow connected to Scanlon, they may know something. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if any of those girls are actually on anybody's witness list. They're not on the states. Let me see. What were their names? Do you guys remember? One was an F. I remember that. And the other one's the Kent girl. I don't remember the other one's names. Are they on the list? I don't think they are. Do you guys remember? They're not, huh? More girls, Lynn. Yep, more girls. Apparently he reminds me of Paul Murdoch. That's who he reminds me of. Sherry said, I have no receipts. I don't either. Fabiano. Yeah, I don't think any of those girls were on the list. I'm just double checking to see maybe I didn't remember. I don't see him. Scanlon and Brian Albert have years of history. Yeah. That would be wild if true. Then I'd understand why the defense was trying to push the third party and not just the Bowden. Yeah. Danielle, really? He does. He gives me, that's who he reminds me of. Paul without any of the charisma. That he would have like, they would name him something different when he was drunk like they did with Paul. We don't know anything for certain, but we know that Scanlon went to Yannetti. Fabiano, Kent. I can't remember the other one's names. How are you going to fight that? That's why I'm like, I want the reconstructionist and I want all the data. Those are like really what I want. And then I'm actually very curious thinking about it now that I'm in perspective of that they do have their own experts that are going to testify that is where his wounds. I want to know how in the world John's body ended up where it was found, and how they're going to prove that that car is what caused those injuries. Do we know how the FBI got involved? I don't know for sure, but Lolly has essentially suggested that the defense brought them in, that the defense started the whole thing, and then the defense attorneys denied it. This is pre-trial. This is in the pre-trial hearings. And they were like, no, like we don't, like the FBI does what the FBI wants to do. So I don't know. Travis, that opening, well, both openings were pretty clear on what the experts were going to do. Duty. That's right. It was duty. How did I forget that? It's a chicken. It's a chicken, Danielle. It's a chicken. Well, I know that there was like an internal affairs investigation that they were kind of opening. I don't know whatever ended up happening with that. And then I don't know. I'm very curious about it because I think that whatever happened should happen in Delphi also. However they got the FBI to do this investigation while the trial is happening, or while the case was still open, I would like them to be able to do that for Delphi. That's where I'm at. I do a spot on Bubba. All right, you guys. I did not even mean to stay on this long, and I know we didn't get to do all the Jen stuff. I don't know. I'll try to figure something else out because I do want to talk about it some more. But Higgins may be on fire anyway. It may be spicy, or it may be a dud. Who knows? We've got that. Oh, I was going to show you guys. So we've got this whole medical records. There's tons of speculation going on about what the possibilities of these medical records could be. Why are they relevant to this case? Does it have something to do with maybe a way he's going to testify now? He wasn't on disability at the time. I have heard that he is currently on disability. So does it just have something to do with like the arrangements in the courtroom? I honestly have no idea. But then they also have the CV for Dr. Justin Rice. I don't know. Well, I mean, hopefully we're going to find out tomorrow. Like I said, there's a ton of speculation about all the different reasons it could be. And that's literally all it is. I have no idea what it could be. And literally no idea. So, but I will be back tomorrow with I got all the transcripts for Delphi. I mentioned that earlier. So I'm going to plan some lives about that. I do want to do something else for the Jen stuff. I don't know what yet. Maybe I'll actually just go through and clip the shit that I want to talk about. Or if Higgins is super duper spicy, like, all the hot peppers off the menu kind of spicy too, then we might just talk about him tomorrow night. Either way, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I'm Pacific time, so it's 7 o'clock right now. But go enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Like I always tell you guys, I know you have 1,000 other places that you could be, and yet you choose to hang out here with me and all my confusions and commentary to myself sometimes. I appreciate each and every single one of you, whether you just watch and you don't chat, or whether you chat, whether you're on replay, whether you hate watch, no matter what it is. I appreciate each and every one of you anyway. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and go have a good night.